What's going on, everybody? How we all doing today? Oh boy, I am just getting ready. It's kind of chilling out on my own here, but you know what? I figured I'd jump over here, hop in, work on what I'm working on, and have the chance to chat with you guys. Not that I don't see more than one of you out there. Now what I'm doing right now, just for reference of why you don't really see anything on the screen, or why you'll see me kind of editing through here, I am currently going through saving the whatchamacallits. I'm basically saving the options, like the updates, the design notes, into their own, into an image, because this is what I used to do. Whenever the new UAs would come out, and I was like starting to get into studying them and, you know, doing streams about them, I would sit here and I would write up my own notes based on the UAs and based on like OneD&D stuff that was coming out. But the thing is that as Wizards has moved on with their UAs, they put these design note little blurbs in here now, and that has become extremely handy for somebody like myself, who really just wants to see the things that changed and kind of focus on that stuff. And so the nice thing is you know, we can obviously just go in there and look at those, but I still like to compare it with what is the, like, what was the previous one, and you know, what did it look like originally and whatnot, because obviously some of these are comparative, not just to the 2014 Player's Handbook Edition, but to the previous UAs. So but I am working on getting this set up right now. As you can see, I'm down to the Warlock, so I've only got a little bit going. So we're gonna hop in here, and we're gonna be talking about this today, because there's a lot of changes in this one. There's a hell of a lot of changes to this, in some good ways, some bad ways. I was already kind of talking about it to some of my friends. Hello, son. How are you today? Yeah, I was already talking about it to some of my friends about some of the changes that they've done to like the fighter and everything. So it's we got a lot. I mean, God, right here, all the Eldritch invocations, all the changes with that, because of, well, honestly, that's more because of what they what Wizards wanted to do in the last UA, where they basically got rid of a lot of invocations. And, well, not even that they got rid of invocations, but they changed how the invocations were supposed to work. That was a big thing. They in the last UA, in UA 6, when they did the Warlock, you know, they had this huge monumental shift from what is the, you know, Warlock's higher level abilities in their Mystic Arcanums. So if you do not know, the way that a warlock's mystic arcanum works, if you don't know what a mystic are, you know what their mystic arcanums are, basically all warlocks have the ability to cast only a handful of spells per day, and of those spells, they're always cast at their highest level. So for example, if you are a level 5 warlock, all of your spells are being cast at I believe what would be 3rd level. Let's take a look. Let me see if I'm wrong. Yeah, 3rd level. But after that, you know, once you get up to 8th or 9th level, all your spells are just being cast at 5th level. So you're always casting just the 5th level version of your spell. Your Mystic Arcanums, though, which is, as you can see here, 11th level, 13th, 15th, and 18th, giving you 6, 7, 8, and 9, respectively, those just give you the ability to cast that spell once a day without burning a spell slot. So it's kind of the way that a wizard works, where a wizard only gets one, like, you know, or wizards and sorcerers and whatnot, they only get a few times a day that they can cast their, you know, their higher level spells, their 6th, 7th, and 8th level spells. So it's kind of a way that the wizard and it's how like the wizard and sorcerer are balanced against it, but it's the it's in a way it's just kind of like its own thing. But yeah, I you know, I was very interested to see how this UA changed things up a bit. So like I said, we're going to go through it, and to those of you that might just be joining us, if you don't know what I'm doing or why I'm not like really showing anything or not talking about what is on screen, I'm actually editing a few images to make life a little bit easier so that we can kind of go through this a little bit differently than I usually do. Just because at this point there are so many different UAs, there are so many different references to like really look at, that I'm just trying to figure out a way, like a better way to kind of organize this. So we're gonna see how this one works today. I'm not gonna say that it's gonna be perfect. I mean, this could honestly be worse than what we, you know, have done before, but I don't know. So if it is, sorry. Yep, just give me a couple minutes, and we'll get jumping into this. How's everybody else doing today? Oh, my neck. Working on Legend Keeper today. Nice. Very nice. Lots to input, I can imagine. Isn't I was trying to think of something else. I think I'm mistaken. I was thinking of something else that sounded similar to Legend Keeper. So many dead bodies. Ba-da-ba-da-ba-da. Ooh. All right, that should be good. So with the warlock. F. Damn bugs. Talk to you about plans for the next several weekends. Spooky costume season is coming. I got all these little gnats around me. I've been dealing with this for like 2 weeks. And when we might get our playing of Baldur's Gate started. That's the other funny thing is tonight is the third episode of tonight's the third episode of Dad Bods and Dragons. So that is, you know, something I got to keep an eye on the clock. We got some plans for that tonight. So want to make sure that I'm not cutting into that time this evening. You know, I find it funny. I don't know when I did it, but there was a time when I bound. I have a couple extra keys on my mouse, and I bound the one to the command that is the snipping tool on Windows, so I can just tap that, and it starts to snip. So I can copy and paste things very easy. And God, is it useful for something like this? Oh, is that all? Is that all the changes? Illusion. What? Illusion Evoker, Diviner, and Abjurer. Okay, cool. All right. And we got some spells, which I'm going to just tack on to the wizard here. Actually, no, they're going to get their own thing. All right. What is up, Glenn? Here, barbarian use of cast iron is legit now. Hell yeah, it is. You know what? Funny you say that. No, it actually very much is. Considering we'll be talking about that. Considering the there's a new fighter subclass called the Brawler that lets you use, like, you know, inanimate objects or like improvised weaponry a lot better. So super excited for that. Super excited for that. All right, we got some spells. What was that? Oh, yeah, that's right. All right, we got some weapon updates. We got spell updates. We got weapon updates. Improvised weapon master. It's kind of like that. It's so the brawler very much feels more like somebody looked at the monk and said, this is cool, but I want there to be more. I want this to feel more like a tavern brawler. And then they went with the, you know, they tacked that onto the fighter so that you can give it more attacks. Very much what it felt like when I was reading through it, but it's very cool. I really like it. So I still only listened to the video. I would say their video was actually pretty good. I was listening to it while I was at work. I was doing some things here and there, and I had it playing in the background, just trying to like catch it as much as I can. So I didn't get to didn't really get to sit with it too much, but that's kind of why, you know, I'm trying to do what I'm doing. So yeah, we'll get to that. We'll talk about everything here. I'm actually just finishing up, so we're gonna jump into this here in un momento, per favor. Go copy, paste, spells, and weapons. Now the thing is that each one of these little images, any of these design notes, I am going to be putting these out on my Discord. So if you are at all curious, if you want to see these after the fact, they will be fully available. So yep, this is basically what I did. I'm gonna pull each one of these up. Okay, what happened to my mouse? There it is. Let's zoom out on that so we have a little bit more room. Here we go. I'm gonna pull each one of these up. Open link. Open link. Open link. And open link. Awesome. Cool. So yeah, as you can see, these are basically the exact same pieces of information that are in here that we're gonna see as we go along, but they are just the total compilation of all the design notes for this one. This is obviously the barbarian the barbarian class. Then we have the fighter. I don't know why that's so blurry. Hold on, are all these blurry? What's going on with fighter? Why does that seem so blurry? Huh, that's weird. That one's not blurry. That one's not, and that one's not. Fighter is blurry. You know what? Give me a second. I'm gonna redo fighter. Fighter looks really bad, and I don't like that. This will only take me a moment. I gotta look professional here, you know? We gotta be right. Also, I'm trying to get this done today. Because I gotta go to bed fairly early tonight because I'm going to be going to the Renaissance Festival tomorrow. So going with my family, spending the day with them, hanging out, enjoying ourselves. If I put that up there, does that make my life easier? We got all kinds of changes to maneuvers for the fighter. Funny enough, there was something I saw in here. It had to do with one of the particular subclasses that one of my players plays, and that got a little bit of a change, and that is the Zealot Barbarian. I mean, we'll be touching on this when we get there, but the Zealot Barbarian now actually has a little kind of like, I don't want to say that it's a quality of life improvement because it was manageable previously, but they've given the Zealot Barbarian an ability that I have given any one of the people that have played in my games as a Zealot Barbarian, which granted is not a lot, but it is 2. And you guys would know if you watch the D&D streams, the one that appears live here, that is Smith the Barbarian. He plays a Zealot, and that is the fact that with their Divine Fury ability, where they are able to basically now pick what they're now able to pick what damage type they want to do when they do their Divine Fury. It's really cool, actually. Okay, let's see if this looks any better now. That's not great, but it's a little better. Okay. Don't know why it's as blurry as it is, but we'll live. All right, cool. So we're going to go ahead and get jumping into this. Like I said, I am going to be posting these afterwards over on the Discord. I'm going to put them in the D&D&Chill section, so if you want to keep updated with these, they will be in there. I also have pulled up playtest 5 and 6 because that is a lot of what this is pulling from, because 5 and 6 was where we got a lot of the spellcasters. I think this is where we had our first couple looks at I don't think it was our first look, but I want to say this is where they changed up the Warlock and Sorcerer. Yeah, we definitely had Rogue. No, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was 6. 6. Yeah, 5 classes: Barbarian, Fighter, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. Okay, so it was this one. Okay, so it was 5. All right, so we're gonna skip 6 because I don't think we're touching anything on 6. So yeah, this is Barbarian, Fighter, Sorcerer, Warlock, and Wizard. These are the touch-ups that they've done since the 5th playtest came out. This is what they iterated on, so this is what we're going to be comparing it to. Obviously, there's going to be some things from the original 2014 book that we're going to have to look into because of just how things are designed, but we are going to start off with the Barbarian. So obviously, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen, these are all of the design notes. These are all the changes that have come in over time. I actually think it's probably gonna be better for me to put these over here so we can kind of see them in comparison. All right, so in playtest 5, we're gonna jump down to the Barbarian and start looking at that. Now, as you can see, previously in UA 5, the danger sense is not even around. Okay, it's been merged with the Feral Instinct ability. So previously you would have in the 2014 version, you had Danger Sense, which basically gave you advantage on dexterity saving throws. You just could not be blind, deafened, or incapacitated. In playtest 5, it was just, in general, at 7th level, you have advantage on initiative and dexterity checks. So this was combined with... where where was it? Yeah, there it is. This was combined with the level 7 ability Feral Instincts, which gave you advantage on initiative rolls. So, and it was also that if you were surprised and aren't incapacitated, you can act normally. So that got combined into one at 7th level. Now, a lot of people complained because the initial danger sense ability being moved from 2nd to 7th was pretty kind of pushing it in a lot of people's opinions. So they decided that they were going to change that. What's up, Sapachu? How are you doing today? I'm trying to think of a way to make this easier, but I don't have the best thought on that. Oh well, we'll just live on. So yeah, so what they have done is they have moved danger sense back to level 2, but they have given it a bit of a bump, and now it is just that as long as you're not incapacitated. So what's the new features of the book in like one sentence each? Well, I mean, what book? In what book? No. Yeah, not a new book, but the new UA, if that's what you're referring to. Yeah, haven't really gotten into it yet. We're just getting started. We're starting on the Barbarian right now, so. But yeah, that answers my question. Yeah. That's very true. There's a lot of changes, but here's the thing. Here's the actual thing I want to point out. So if we look at the original Barbarian career path, okay, whatever you want to call this, this looks a little bit different. Okay, this is obviously on the right hand side. This is UA number 5. Okay, this is the one where they did a lot of changes. So you can see we still have unarmored defense and raid, but we got weapon mastery. Primal knowledge moved up, and we kept reckless attack, but we lost danger sense. Then we had our subclass, then we had our feat or ASI, we got our extra attack and movement, another subclass feature, Feral Instinct, but we lost instinctive pounce, which that is an alternate feature where when you rage, you can use a boat, or as part of the rage, you can move up to half of your speed. And then the brutal critical stayed the same. Persistent rage replaced relentless rage. Then we had persistent rage later on. So relentless rage is the one where when you drop to 0 hit points, you can make a con save and drop to 1 instead. Persistent rage is that your rage only ends if you fall unconscious or you choose to end it. So instead of, now you don't have to attack. Now you don't have to be attacked. And it was also kind of changed. You could just use a bonus action to keep it going, which kind of made persistent rage a little weird, because you could just, in this new 5th one, you could just kind of keep that going. And then obviously the biggest change in UA 5 was Rage Resurgence and Primal Champion being where they are, also not getting another 3 geese in a trench coat. What's going on? Not really getting anything beyond the standard, everybody gets the same level of progression treatment, and then with that epic boon. What we are seeing though, and what I very much appreciate with this, is that if we look at the new career path in UA 7, it very much is a mimic of 2014. We are getting weapon mastery added. Danger sense and reckless attack are now at 2nd. You get your subclass and your primal knowledge at 3rd. Your ASI, your extra attack and fast movement, another subclass feature, Feral Instinct and Instinctive Pounce are both back. You got your ASI. There is a change to Brutal Critical, which we'll talk about. Then we got Relentless Rage being moved back to 11th, ASI, another Brutal Critical, subclass Persistent Rage, ASI, Brutal Critical, Indomitable Might, ASI, and Champion. They basically said, hey, 2014 looked really good. Let's just iterate onto some of this. So I'm really happy with this. Fairly new to D&D, did some one-shots back in the day, but recently got the books and started reading 2 weeks later, and I've read the PHB, and now chapter 1 of the DMG. My God. Well, congratulations. You've read the most important book, even as a DM, if you plan on DMing. I think honestly the PHB is like one of those books that is instrumental, but the DMG, while it's touted as being like the DM's tool, there is so much in the DMG that if you are like running a pre-made or like one shots and stuff, I feel like so much of it does not apply. But I'm glad that you're having fun, man. So yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. You can ask questions. Feel free if you're curious about anything we're talking about. Today we're going over the new Unearthed Arcana number 7 that was put out. The stuff that will be changing D&D next year when they put out their new set of books, the new PHB, the new DM's guide. And I don't think they're going to do another monster manual, being that they just did Mordenkainen. So, but yeah, so like I said, I really like the fact that the career path of the Barbarian is now basically the same as it was. One major difference, though, that I noted immediately is that it's no longer unlimited rages at 20th level, still capped out at 6. So, but reality, most campaigns don't get up to that level, so it's not the end of the world. All right, so let's keep going. Like it says, Dangerous Sense returns to 2nd level. It now works even if you have blinded or deafened. So that means you can still be blind. That means now you can be blind, you can be deafened, and still get the advantage on the dexterity saving throws. Scan of the DMG and that's, you know what? That's it. Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master is exactly what you need. And actually, oh wait, is it in here? Yep. Oh, you know what? That's probably why I can't find it. You know what? I think it's down over in my my other bag. Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master is hands down one of the best DM resources ever. It helps you actually be a DM and make better choices and decisions. I was looking for it. I usually keep it within reach, but it might be somewhere over behind me. Oh, hey, thanks for the follow, buddy. Appreciate that very much. So, couple books that I can highly recommend. If you are just getting started into stuff, grab a copy of this book. It's hard to see because of my camera. It's gonna fade it out. Hold on. Turn this and get rid of background removal for a second. There we go. The Great Big Book of Random Tables. This is I believe this is by Matt Davies. Matthew Davies, am I wrong? Yeah, Matt Davids. 100%, if you plan on running your own games, get a copy of this book. It's 120 D100 tables with all kinds of stuff that you need. Do you need book titles? Do you need crit successes for spell attacks, items in dungeons, bounty boards, forest encounters, inn encounters, non-combat encounters, road encounters, literally a D100 table for sweetbreads. Okay, I keep this one in my DM book or my DM bag when I travel, because that is like the one thing. An entire D100 table for different kinds of sweetbreads. Yes. Check that out. Also, if you are wanting to grab yourself some resources, highly recommend. See that link above me? Okay, you can go to that, or you can click the About button below the stream. There's a Discord link in there that goes to my Discord. There's a channel in the Discord called the Archives, and in there, if you scroll the whole way up, it's only a little bit, but you scroll the whole way up, there are 4 folders: D&D Adventures, D&D Books, Maps, and Tokens. Those are all resources that I have collected over my like more than a decade playing 5th edition that I share out to the community. The D&D Books actually has copies of Matt Davies' books. So if you are at all interested in that, and in fact, I have every single one of his books in a folder in there. If you want access to some books, some adventures, maps, D&D tokens, go to my Discord, go to the Archives channel, and check those out. Like I said, you just got to scroll the whole way to the top of the Archives. All 4 of them are right there, and feel free to use them at your leisure. There's all kinds of stuff in there. And D&D is about the community. It's about sharing the resources and doing what we can to make sure that everyone has, everyone has access to that stuff. So glad to have you around, buddy. All right, so back to where we were. Reckless attack now grants advantage to your strength-based attack rolls until the start of your next turn. So previously with reckless attack, the way that it worked is when you make the first attack on your turn, you can choose to attack recklessly. This is going to give you advantage on melee weapon attacks using strength for that turn, and then attacks against you have advantage. With this new feature, it gives you advantage on attacks using strength until the start of your next turn. This means that opportunity attacks are now going to be able to benefit from your reckless attack. I know this is something that has come up in some of the play that I have done. Hell, in my Rime of the Frost Maiden campaign that I ran, or that I run, this comes up here and there. So really good to see that this is coming into play, and that it's not just, and like, okay, on this turn you're good, but you're kind of screwed if somebody moves away from you after this. I really like that they gave them this. This is a really nice upgrade. Primal Knowledge has been moved from 3rd to 2nd level to match the level in Tasha's Cauldron. That's great. Instinctive Pounce has been imported from Tasha. So previously, Instinctive Pounce was just a Tasha's Cauldron optional thing. It is now getting put in. This is where when you rage, you can move up to half your speed. So it's about getting angry, rushing forward, and hitting them where it hurts. So now we're getting into one of the biggest changes. Now previously, Brutal Critical in the 5th UA was that when you score a crit with a weapon or unarmed attack using strength, they take equal damage to your barbarian level. That damage is the same type dealt by the weapon or unarmed strike. And that was it. Okay. And I'm not gonna lie, that sucked. that kind of, wasn't the greatest, but depending on the kind of weapon that you have, it actually would benefit you going later on, because obviously you would have the opportunity for more damage later on, because you would just get 11 damage. You would get 20 damage at level 20. Previously, Brutal Critical, the way that it worked is when you crit, you get to roll an additional weapon die, and that gets added in. Now, the thing is that when you do something like a die roll, that affects how some tables actually calculate. I don't know why that's highlighted. Oh, was that fine? Yeah. That actually determines how some tables do criticals. So, for example, at my tables, I have a role called Brutal Criticals. Some people call it Crunchy Crits, but the way that it works is instead of doubling your dice pool, because honestly that's what you're doing, and when you crit you double the amount of dice that you're rolling, the way that I do it is you get the maximum of your dice pool plus whatever you roll. So if, for example, you are a barbarian swinging with a great sword, you're going to be rolling 2d6 and then plus your strength. If you crit on that, normally you would roll 4d6 and add your strength. I do it where you roll 2d6 and add your strength, and then you add the maximum of that 2d6, which would be 12. So putting in Brutal Critical as a die roll meant that you could add that into there. So, for example, at 9th level, you roll one additional weapon die when determining the extra damage for a critical hit. That means you just get to add another die, that maximum die, into that die pool. The new one works very similarly, but is now its own thing. So now when you score a critical hit with a strength, with a weapon that uses strength or an unarmed strike, the target takes an extra 1d6 extra damage, and this increases to 2d6 at 13th, or sorry, no, I said 6, 1d12. That increases to 2d12 at 13th level and 3d12 at 17th. That is pretty incredible, in my opinion, because that is tacking on, at my table, an extra 36 points of damage, which, hey, you know what? Good for them. Barbarians should have I truly believe criticals need to be a thing. Criticals need to be these crazy things that just kind of explode, and that's really what this is. I also like that it's a 1d12, because that is putting it into the highest tier bracket. So arguably you could be using a dagger and score a critical and it's doing 1d12 versus the previous one where it would just be an extra d4. So I really like this, but there is obviously the caveat. Previously it was just when you score a critical hit with a melee attack. Now you could have say something like finesse. Maybe you're a barbarian that doesn't actually have a very maybe you have like a really high dexterity as well. You know, maybe you're like super min-maxed and your dexterity is a little bit higher than your strength because of some kind of build that you have. You could have a finesse weapon and it would work with this. This is now very specifically strength, so that is a big change. But I think it's honestly not a huge it's a huge big deal, and I welcome that change. So I'm liking this already. Relentless Rage, as we talked about, moved back to 11th level, and Persistent Rage moved back up to 15th. Also, previously, for the Persistent Rage, it was that they changed it to be incapacitated. So Persistent Rage is that if you fall, when you rage, you can only end it early if you fall unconscious or if you choose to end it. In UA 5, they changed it to be that your rage is so fierce it now lasts for 10 minutes without you needing to do anything to extend it from round to round. The rage still ends if you are incapacitated or don heavy armor. So now they are taking away that incapacitated aspect, but they have added so much more onto this, and I absolutely love it. So at 15th level, if you roll initiative and do not have any more uses of rage, you regain 1 expended use. That's fucking phenomenal. That in itself kind of makes up for the fact that before, at 20th level, you would have unlimited rages, because realistically, as long as you're jumping into combat enough, you have an unlimited amount of rages at this point at 15th level. So you're constantly able to rage. In addition, your rage can now last for 10 minutes without you needing to, you know, have it go from round to round to round. And the only time that it ends is if you fall unconscious or don heavy armor. So they have taken what some other classes already get, where it's like, hey, if you, like, monks got it early on, where if you start combat without any key points, you gain a key point. And I absolutely love that. I think it's really cool that the barbarian gets this. What was this? Oh, you don't need to add that to, I mean, you can. You don't need to add that to the wish list. I have that in the archives. Yep, nope, that's in the D&D books. There's a random tables book in there. And, it's in there. In fact... Oh, sure, yeah. If you want a physical copy of it, yeah, because I was gonna say, right there, this is the whole book. But yes, if you want a physical copy of it, you know, always. All right, so yeah. Like I said, I really like the persistent rage. I love the fact that they are giving the barbarian more opportunities to use their rage. Obviously, they're just getting a little stronger with the new brutal critical setup and kind of putting them back to where they were before. You know, obviously things have adjusted here and there. The primal knowledge, for example, also got a little bit of a shift. So I know I didn't touch on this, but I was just remembering this one. So previously, primal knowledge was when you reach 3rd level, and then again at 10, you got proficiency in one skill from the ones that were, you know, available in the first, you know, when you made your character. In the 5th edition, or in the 5th UA, they kind of changed it up a little bit, where not only did you get to take another skill while your rage is active, you can then turn any check that you're doing into a strength-based check. So you can do a strength-based acrobatics, intimidation, perception, stealth, or survival. And that is, you know, so long as you're raging. When they talked about this was their design of wanting to give players more options to use their combat-based features outside of combat. I know we talked about that on the last one. I just wanted to touch on that again. All right, so Indomitable Might returns to 18th level, and it now applies to strength saves and throws. So that is referring to where was it? I don't even know if it was there. Oh yeah, here's that. This is where that changed. Rage Resurgence is now basically the combination of persistent rage and the new persistent rage is basically a combination of persistent rage and rage resurgence. So you don't have to wait till 17th level to snag that. It's really nice to get that earlier. Yeah, so previously Indomitable Might That's going to be down here. If your total for a strength check is less than your strength score, you can use that score in place of the total. Now, this is very similar to the rogue's ability of reliable talent, where if you are making a check that uses your I think it's really like anything. Yeah, when you make an ability check that you add your proficiency bonus, you always have at least a 10 or higher. So it's really nice that that they, you know, had this for the barbarian. It was, like I said, it was very high up there, but keep in mind, at this point, your barbarian's probably gonna have a 20 in strength. So that means that if your total for a strength check is less than your strength score, not your modifier, your score. So if you roll less than a 20, or like if with your modifier it's less than a 20, you can just take a 20. And as long as that passes it, which will pass the majority of saves that you do, then you're gonna get that. But now it's strength checks and saving throws. So another nice little, you know, nice little upgrade for the barbarian with that one. And then finally, Primal Champion back to level 20. Previously, that was bumped down to 18th. It was also changed to where it increases your strength and con by 2 to a maximum of 22. Now it's back to what it was in the past, where when you reach level 20, your strength and con increase by 4 up to a maximum of 24. So this just is, like I said, in the very beginning, this is back to the way things were. And I appreciate that so much more, because these are the subclasses that we have grown, or these are the classes that we have grown to love. There are changes that we have done as a community that have made things a little better, but I appreciate that, you know, they are listening to our feedback. You know, they tried something different. They obviously heard that we weren't liking it, so they decided to go back to the way that things were, but give us some upgrades. All right, on to Suffocating Chant. Oh, no, thank you. I appreciate the offer, though, but no, thank you. Cool. Thanks for the message. You are reported and blocked. All right. So on to the Path of the Berserker. So the Path of the Berserker, on the right-hand side here, this is playtest 5. Left is the playtest 7. So the big change with this is that the Intimidating Presence is now a bonus action. So we're going to look into this. We're going to review it real quick because it's actually a fairly small section that has changed. So 3rd level, when you use your reckless attack, or if you use reckless attack, and reckless attack is the one that allows you to have advantage on your attacks, you deal extra damage to the first creature you hit. So this is going to be a number of d6 equal to your rage bonus. That has not changed. I believe this is a slight change from the official version, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, originally the Berserker was that you could frenzy, and it would give you, if for the duration of your rage, you can make a single melee attack as a bonus action on each of your turns after this one. But then your rage ends, or when your rage ends, you suffer a level of exhaustion. So it was a very heavy price to pay to get essentially what accounts to 1 minute's worth of single melee attacks. Now it's just that extra damage, and it's just part of your reckless attack. So you're already having to expend something, you're already raging, so you're not taking any penalties. This was a great quality of life improvement. 6th level, Mindless Rage. You're immune to Charmed and Frightened while you're raging, and if you enter your rage, those conditions end. That's the exact same as what it was before. Retaliation moved in the previous one from 14th to 10th. As you can see, Intimidating Presence got moved up. So retaliation is that when you take damage from a creature within 5 feet, you can use a reaction to make one melee attack against that creature. That is basically the same thing as it was in 2014's version. And Intimidating Presence. So previously, this was an action that when you use this action, each creature within 30 feet of you, or 60 feet if your rage is active, makes a wisdom save, and on a failed save, they're frightened for a minute. They can then repeat this at the end of their turns, and you can use this once per long rest, or you can extend your you can use your rage again to do it again. Okay. Now, previously, this did not have a this was a once per long rest thing. It was worded very weirdly, because technically the period between long rests could be less than 24 hours. So I like that they changed that in the previous one. What makes this different is now it's a bonus action. So you can bonus action, use Intimidating Presence, and then go in with all of your attacks. I think this is great. I think this is really good because this gives you an opportunity to play into it a lot more, to actually get use out of it on the turn that you use it, rather than using it more to benefit your allies. Because in a lot of cases, that's what it would be. You know, you would be giving that action up and using up all of your, anything else you could do to give the frightened condition, which wasn't necessarily benefiting you in the long run, because hell, for all you know, combat could be over by the time they get back around to you. So yeah, I really like how they changed that. Honestly, I think the Berserker, all these, this simple change to it makes it really nice. So I'm really happy with that one. All right, moving on to the Path of the Wild Heart. Now, if you sat down to read this like I did, and you have not played the new Baldur's Gate game, you might be like, oh, Path of the Wild Heart, that's new. Funny enough, it's not. This is the Totem Warrior, like it says here, formerly called the Path of the Totem Warrior. And in Baldur's Gate, the Barbarian in that has the new version of this. It has the Wild Heart version. So this is a really cool kind of name change to give it a little bit of a different idea of how this works, where previously it was that you had this certain totem or totemic animal that was your guide. And this is like maybe associated with something to your past, like maybe you were raised by wolves, or maybe your clan like worshipped the bears, or maybe you were Aarakocra and you were constantly around eagles, so you have this eagle tie-in. Now it is more about this barbarian kind of having more of a druidic side in a way, being kin to the animals of the world and figuring out ways to harness their energy and their strengths and benefits. And as you will see, it's no longer just bear, eagle, elk, tiger, wolf, and it repeats, kind of making you feel like you have to take the same one, which you never did. They mentioned this in the D&D video on YouTube when they were discussing this, how they said like, oh yeah, we had a lot of people thinking if you took bear at level 3, you had to take bear at level 6. It has always said you can choose the same animal you selected at 3rd or a different one, but I can understand that you might feel like you have to stick to the same one, or you might have to like swap your earlier one to go with a different one, but never been the case. This new one though fixes that aspect just through and through. So starting at 3rd level, instead of Spirit Seeker, you now have Animal Speaker. It, like it says here, it pretty much is exactly the same. It's just now it expressly says that wisdom is the spellcasting focus. So speak with animals and beast sense are, you know, basically druid ranger spells. But you know, obviously you want to have something that can associate with that. You want to have some kind of spellcasting focus, or I mean spellcasting skill and ability, just in case there's anything that ever needs to be called into question, like an animal handling check or something like that. So now it's just more expressly stated. This also means that if you were playing this as, say, a wizard, I mean as a barbarian, like a barbarian sorcerer, as weird as that might be, this would not be cast with charisma. It would be cast still with wisdom now. So just kind of them, you know, hunkering some things down. So basically the exact same. Rage of the Wild, which is the old totem spirit, is where you are jumping into taking some of these animals. So third level, boy oh boy did they really hurt the bear, in my opinion. As it says here, bear no longer grants resistance to all but 1 damage. The former design was too powerful. It now grants you resistance to 2 of your choice. So previously, if you took the bear totem while raging, you had resistance to all damage except psychic. It is now that you pick 2 types of damage that you are resistant to, other than force or psychic. I will say, I will still play with the old one. And that's mostly just because I still have a character rolled up that's a Kalishtar barbarian who has resistance to all damage while raging, because they have an innate resistance to psychic damage. But I don't know. I feel like this is a little bit too weak. But I will say the nice thing is that at least they give you the choice to pick. Okay, arguably they could have given you like, oh, you have to pick between these things. I like that if you're going into combat and you see that you're fighting a fire elemental and like an ochre jelly, you could say, okay, I'm resistant to fire, I'm resistant to acid, and then go in. But still, I really like this old one. All right, so Eagle previously was that you could dash as a bonus action on your turn as long as you weren't wearing heavy armor and you were raging. Now it is that oh no, I'm sorry, that's right, it's that if you aren't wearing heavy armor and while you're raging, creatures have disadvantage on opportunity attacks against you, and you can use the dash action as a bonus action. They've kind of changed this part to take away the whole you know, can't be wearing heavy armor side of the things, to just say, okay, while you're raging, you can use a bonus action to take the dash action or the disengage. So it's really nice because that means that obviously you don't have to worry about disadvantage on opportunity attacks. They just can't hit you if you disengage unless they have the sentinel feat. So, which monsters can have the sentinel feat. All right, so moving up, we have Wolf. So previously it was that you and your friends, while raging, your friends have advantage on melee attack rolls against creatures within 5 feet of you that are hostile towards you. Now, this is that your allies have advantage on melee attack rolls against any enemy of yours within 10 feet. So they increase that rage by 10 feet, which is a really nice, really nice buff to the wolf. All right, moving up to level 6, we have the elephant. So they say over here that this was formerly the bear, but it's really not, and I don't appreciate them saying that, because this is one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, these are completely different now. So previously, and we're just going to look at bear, eagle, and wolf. At 6th level, as the bear, your carrying capacity doubled, and you had advantage on strength checks to push, pull, lift, or break objects. Eagle was that you could see up to 1 mile away with no difficulty. You were able to discern fine details as though looking at something no more than 100 feet away from you. And additionally, dim light did not impose disadvantage on your perception checks. And wolf was that you can track other creatures while traveling at a fast pace and can move stealthily while traveling at a normal pace. Those are some great flavorful options. Personally, I have always loved the bear side of things. Doubling your carrying capacity is incredible, especially in Baldur's Gate. But now, level 6 is basically, hey, you get to pick a skill that you can have proficiency in, or if you're already proficient, you get expertise. So elephant is you get to pick between athletics or insight, and again, if you already have proficiency in the skill, you gain expertise where you can double the proficiency bonus. Owl gives you investigation or perception, and spider is they give you stealth or survival. So the reason why I think they say that it was formerly bear has to do with the fact, I think the reason why is because athletics can play into your carrying capacity. You might have somebody at your table arguing, well, like, can I make an athletics check to push, pull, lift, or break this object? Because that's advantage on strength checks, like it says there, to do this thing. Now you're just saying, okay, you have proficiency in this, or you can get expertise. Eagle is that you have heightened perception, the ability to see 1 mile away or see fine details up close. That is definitely a perception or an investigation check. Same with the dim light doesn't impose disadvantage. Again, that's perception based. And then the wolf, the ability to track creatures and move stealthily, that's obviously going to be stealth and survival. So here's the thing, in my opinion. I think the previous version is very specific to the case use of that thing, but is much more flavorful and very, it provides you with more opportunity to kind of play into that. Okay, what exactly does it mean to say that you can see 1 mile away with no difficulty, or that you're able to discern fine details as if you were no more than 100 feet away? Like, what does that actually mean? How can you play into that? It gives you a lot more freedom, but it also means there's a lot more there's a lot more discernment that the DM would have to make. Now, obviously, dim light doesn't impose disadvantage. Totally makes sense. But I know why they went this way. And in a sense, it does make sense. This is simply saying, hey, you get to pick a skill and have proficiency or expertise in this. Like, here's a free skill that we're giving you, and it's kind of along the same lines of what these would have offered you. Plus, it also means that it can be used for other things. Athletics doesn't just relate to being able to push, pull, lift, or break objects. It's also jumping. It's also swimming. It's also climbing. So athletics can play into other things. Investigation and perception aren't just about being able to see a mile away or discern fine detail up close or getting to remove disadvantage on perceptions. That is used for finding traps. That's used for reading a room. That's used for, figuring out how something works. That's about, walking into a room and just seeing things. And same with the spider. With this, you can track creatures while traveling at a fast pace. That's great. And also, you can move stealthily while traveling at a normal pace. That's awesome. Does this mean, where it says you can move stealthily while traveling at a normal pace, does that mean that you can do that in combat? It doesn't say that. Normal pace and fast pace refer to traveling speeds. So technically speaking, the ability to track at a fast pace and move stealthily at a normal pace, that is only applicable to when you're traveling outside of combat, and having to track travel pace. This stealth and survival skill is definitely giving you more versatility. Stealth doesn't just make it so you can move stealthily at a normal pace. It means that maybe you can sneak something off of somewhere. Maybe you can steal something. Survival, that can play into tracking creatures. It can play into figuring out if something's edible or not, if water is clean, if an area has a certain kind of animal in there. It can play into a lot of different things. So I do kind of like it. I just miss the flavor of this other one. So, but hey, you know what? You're also getting insight because of elephants being, very wise. So I kind of wish this, honestly, though, was history. Like, elephants are often said to be very, wise. They remember things. I kind of wanted this to be history, but that's a me thing. All right, so Spirit Walker is now Nature Speaker, gives you commune with nature, and it just now outlines what the spellcasting modifier is. And then finally, we have what used to be Totemic Attunement is now Power of the Wilds. So Lion, formerly Bear. So previously with Bear, while raging, any creature within 5 feet of you that's hostile towards you has disadvantage on attacks other than you, or another creature with this feature, and it's immune if it can't see or hear you, or it can't be frightened. So now it's basically the same thing, but it's like it says here, it's no longer stopped by immunity to the frightened condition. Not sure if elephants align with athletic and all, and that's true. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, elephant doesn't necessarily, but arguably that's why they're kind of just going in general. It's just a big, strong creature. That was the whole idea of the push, pull, lift, or break objects. Elephants can definitely push, pull, lift, and break heavy objects. All right, back to where I was. So yeah, Lion is now no longer required for them to not be immune to frighten. So it's not about frightening them. This is more of just your presence. And it's just going to be that, it's also not about if they can see you or hear you. It is just that while your rage is active, any of your enemies within 5 feet have disadvantage against targets other than you or another barbarian with this feature, full stop. So a good cleaning up, making it a little bit easier to work with. Eagle here has actually gotten a very good upgrade. So previously, while raging, you had a fly speed equal to your walking speed, and that it only worked in short bursts. If you fall if you end your turn in the air and nothing else is holding you aloft. This is now that you have a flying speed equal to your walking speed, provided you're not wearing armor. This is so much better because this means that for that minute, you can fly as much as you want. You're not having to like hop around. I always hated the eagle version in Totemic Attunement because it made having a flying speed worthless. Like the most that you could really fly up would be 15 feet because you'd have to spend the rest of your movement moving down, or like you could move up 20 feet, but you'd have to fly back down or fall. So kind of a pain in the butt, but I love the fact that now it is just a full-on fly speed. And then finally, Ram. Previously Wolf, while you're raging, you can use a bonus action to knock a larger, smaller creature prone when you hit them with a melee weapon attack. And that's basically the same thing here. When you hit a larger, smaller creature with a melee attack, it must succeed a strength saving throw or have the prone condition. So basically keeping it the same. Overall, when it comes to the Path of the Wild Heart, I do generally like what they have done with it. They have made it a little bit easier to follow. They have given the player more options. There is some different variety in it. I just personally don't like the change to the third level ability for Bear. Honestly, I don't think this is actually that powerful, truth be told. Okay, I don't actually think having resistance to all damage except psychic is that powerful, because the reality is rage is going to generally last for just 30 seconds in most cases. Okay, most combat only lasts for roughly about 5 rounds. That means that you're gonna rage, your duration for rage is gonna last about half the time usually. Okay, and they're gonna be burning through that. Now I get that, you know, now you have more opportunities to get rage back and you can start combat off with a rage, but in most cases you're only ever going to have 1 or 2 different damage types present in most combats. Okay, most combatants are oftentimes going to have very similar ones. What's up, Gift to Gabby? How you doing today? I'm doing well. We're talking about the new UA, so yeah, going hard in the Barbarian. I also don't like that it took away the force damage. Granted, that's very rare, but that means that this, you know, the Wild Heart Barbarian can't resist against magic missile now, which was always a nice thing. So yeah, I don't know, I like it in general, but you know, me personally just feel like they hurt my bear. Maybe that's because I play a bear barbarian in my Baldur's Gate game. Maybe it's because I've built numerous bear totem barbarians, because that's kind of like my style. But yeah, overall it's not bad. Okay, so over here we have a whole new subclass. Okay, so if you have not read through this UA, there is an entirely new subclass called the Path of the World Tree. And the way that this works, I'm just going to read out this little bit of flavor text. Barbarians who follow the Path of the World Tree believe that their rage links them to the cosmic ash tree Yggdrasil. This world tree grows among the outer planes, connecting them to each other and the many worlds of the material plane. And the greatest plants on every world are said to be distant descendants of mighty Yggdrasil. These barbarians draw on their connection to the world tree as a source of vitality and as a means to travel across the multiverse. That last part describes the entire subclass. A source of vitality and a means to travel. That's the entire build. This is a support and mobility kind of, and control kind of build. So 3rd level, when you activate your rage, you regain, didn't they say something in the video about these sorts of trees? If they did, I might have missed that. I mean, I'm sure something like this might play into something later. So third level, when you rage, you regain hit points equal to your level, and at the start of each of your turns while your rage is active, you can choose another creature within 10 feet of you to gain temporary hit points, which is equal to a number of d6 equal to your rage damage bonus. So at third level, you're giving one ally 2d6 temporary hit points within 10 feet of you. And if they still have these temporary hit points when your rage end, they vanish. I love this. I think this is fucking awesome because the flavor is right there in the title, Vitality of the Tree. This has bark skin written all over it. I would love to play as this barbarian who runs out into combat, rages, and all of a sudden, like, plants, vines come out of the ground and start to cover this barbarian, being that extra hit point. Okay, or when you're in your rage, on your turn, you can choose another creature to gain temporary hit points as you like throw clumps of dirt at them that like pads onto them, or you throw over to them pieces of bark that attach to them. I absolutely love this. Like the flavor text, or the flavor of this particular ability is just so reminiscent of bark skin. I can't even express how much I love this. Level 6. While your rage is active, whenever a creature you can see ends its turn within 20 feet of you, you can use your reaction to summon spectral branches of the world tree around it. The target must succeed a strength save or be teleported to an unoccupied space that you can see within 5 feet of yourself or in the nearest unoccupied space. It must be on a surface that they can support it, so you can't just have them appear in air, or you can't have them appear over liquid water. So it would have to be something like ice, rock, grass, sand, something like that. Otherwise, it doesn't teleport. I'm working on Spelljammer world building. Oof, good for you, man. That's Spelljammer world building is literally like the whole thing, I feel like, because you're having to design worlds in most cases. I wish you the best. Feel free to drop some lore in here as you're going along. Tell us about it. Okay, so one of the cool things about this 6th level ability, Branches of the Tree, it specifically says here, voluntarily failing a save. The 2024 PHB will clarify that any creature can voluntarily fail any saving throw. This means that Branches of the World Tree functions somewhat similarly to a spell that I have introduced in a number of the campaigns that I run called Rescue, where you can draw forth a creature from far away by throwing out some, they can be flavored however you want. They could be spectral change, they could be vines, they could just be like, arcane whips, doesn't really matter. Rescue is one of those spells that a lot of my players have taken over the years. And this is kind of a variation on that, where it's, as long as they're within 20 feet, you're getting a reaction to draw them forward. So you can potentially save your ally from, some kind of attack that's going to hit them. Maybe you're out of the range, but they're not, so you can move them next to you. But this can also be used to draw enemies closer to you. You could draw an enemy within 5 feet of you, and maybe that's right next to a cliff or something like that. And then on your turn, you could push them off the cliff. That would be really fucking funny. Like on your turn, like the turn before your turn, you cast you use Branches of the Tree to summon a creature next to you, and then you push them off a cliff. Like, that's fucking funny as shit. Yeah, so I'm liking this so far. Already we have some support abilities. Right now we have some control abilities and some mobility abilities. 10th level, Battering Roots. Tendrils of the World Tree extend from your melee weapons. While you wield any melee weapon, your reach with that weapon increases by 10 feet. And when you hit with it, you can activate the push or topple property, even if you're using another mastery property. So for reference, we'll jump down and we'll see what those two are. Oh, we passed them. So we have Sap, which is the... Oh, wait, was it Sap? Hold on. Push, sorry. So here we go. So we got the push ability. If you hit a creature with this weapon, you can push them 10 feet away. And topple is that you can knock them prone by imposing a con save against them. So something really good that you can use with that. I really like this whole design. It's definitely a class that, or definitely a subclass that I plan on building a character for, because I can imagine this character being like Groot, you know, being a creature that's made of like plants and tree matter, like the Leshy from Pathfinder, or some kind of elemental. This would be a really cool design for that. I'm getting inspired by the Fallout New Vegas with Wild Wastelands Park, Pirates of the Caribbean, Post-Apocalypse, and Space Junker, etc. Nice. Nice. That sounds awesome. All right, and then we have Travel Along the Tree. As an action, you can touch a huge or larger tree or a teleportation circle to create a link through the world tree to a teleportation circle somewhere else on the same world or on another plane of existence. When you do so, you can specify a target destination in general terms, such as the City of Brass on the elemental plane of fire, and you and up to 5 willing creatures within 30 feet appear at the teleportation circle closest to the destination. If a circle is too small to hold all creatures, they appear in unoccupied spaces closest to the circle. Once you use this feature, you can use it again after a long rest, or you can use your rage, or you can expend 5 uses of your rage to activate again. Damn bugs. Got one. The magic level commonly magic is kind of rare, but magic is well known. Simply casters. Okay. Least rare being warlocks. Huh. Okay. Nice. Guess I need to read this more because it sounded a bit about that reaving. Yeah. No. This is definitely more of a. This is definitely more of like the tree aspect and being connected to the tree, and it's about more of a support / mobility, you know, design to it. So like I said, I really love this. I really like this design. I think it's really cool, so I'm looking forward to this when they add it to Beyond and I can actually like make a character. Hell, who knows, maybe I'll add it myself some point. Okay, on to the Path of the Zealot, the final subclass for the Barbarian before we move on to Fighter. So the main things on here, as we can see over here, Divine Fury now allows you to determine the damage type each time you deal the damage. So this is what I was talking about before. With Smith the Barbarian, you can, the way that this was previously, we'll pull this up, Zealot, Divine Fury, when you're raging, the first creature you hit is dealt an extra 1d6 plus your plus half of your barbarian level. This damage is either necrotic or radiant, and you choose the damage type when you gain this feature. So at 3rd level, you have to make a decision whether your character is going to be necrotic or radiant. Now it is that on each of your turns while your rage is active, the first creature that you hit takes that damage, and it can be chosen each time you deal the damage. I love this. This is what I have done with my one friend who played a zealot barbarian named Bagbo, the bugbear barbarian, and this is also the same thing I have done with Smith in my Rime of the Frost Maiden game, where he is able to do necrotic or radiant, and it kind of played into him having to balance between his own one's desires and also that of what his weapon wanted, because he had a sentient weapon for a short time. So up next we have Warrior of the Gods. So this now includes the ability to gain HP. So previously, if a spell such as Raise Dead has the sole effect of restoring you to life, the caster does not need material components. So now it is that, which is right down here, but it is now that when a spell or magic item restores any of your hit points, you can roll a d12 and regain additional hit points equal to that. And you can do that a number of times equal to your con mod, regaining those uses on a long rest. So Warrior of the Gods, keeping you alive, keeping you moving, and giving you more hit points. It's what this whole thing is about. Fanatical Focus is basically the same thing. If you fail a save, you can re-roll it, but you have to take the new roll, and you can do that once per rage. Zealot Presence. So Zealot Presence now allows you to use it multiple times between long rest, as long as you burn a use of your rage. So we have seen this a couple times already. There is more things popping up where it's like, hey, you can use this once per long rest, but if you have used it, you can also burn a use of your rage to use it again, which is very cool. I honestly think more things need to be like that. Like, give me a resource that I can use multiple times, and give me something that I can do with that if I want to use this ability again. You know, as much as I understand wanting to limit things to like once per long rest, once per short rest, giving you the opportunity to burn another resource to use that is a good feature. Now, don't make it solely reliant on that. We saw that with what was it? With the monk stuff, where it's like, oh, this is your, everything you're doing is based on your key points. So like, you have to burn through this one resource, and you can't do it any other way. Or if we're looking at something like the, what was it? I think maybe the Warlock with their Mystic Arcanums, they had a limited amount of whatchamacallits, they had a limited amount of invocations, but they were like, oh, now you get to use your invocations for Mystic Arcanums. Well, that's great, but that doesn't give me any extra things. Like, you're basically just making me not have to choose between invocations and my higher level spells, which sucked. All right, so I like this. I like the redesign of that one. That one's good. Moving on to our last one, Rage Beyond Death now turns you into a Spectral Warrior after you successfully use Relentless Rage. So, what does this mean? Well, basically, previously, while raging, if you drop to 0 hit points, or having 0 hit points doesn't knock you unconscious. You still make death throws, and you take the normal effects of taking damage at 0 hit points, but you do not die until your rage ends. The way that this works now is that when your Relentless Rage successfully restores your hit points, you can become a Spectral Warrior. During this time, you have a fly speed, or sorry, while in this form, you have a fly speed equal to your normal speed, and you can hover. You can move through creatures as if they're difficult terrain, and if you're hit by an attack, you can use your reaction to turn it into a miss. And this lasts for 1 minute, or until you regain any hit points or drop to 0 hit points. So basically, your Relentless Rage is that one that's going to bring you back up to a certain amount of hit points. Right here, you're going to make that save, and then you're going to be back up. and the moment you come back up, you're a ghost. And for a minute, you are, you know, being able to shrug off attacks. You're being able to fly through spaces, but you're still able to attack. So I think this is a really cool idea. It's not just like, oh, I'm fighting through death. This is giving you so much more. This is giving you that fly speed, letting you move through creatures, being able to shrug off attacks. I think it's really cool. I think it's just a cool redesign, and I like Rage Beyond Death. All right, so we're now moving on to Fighter, which Fighter is a big one. Fighter has a decent amount of changes. So if you folks don't mind, give me a couple minutes. I just gotta go use the restroom real fast, but I will be right back. Hey there, folks. I'm back. Oh, the music's starting back up again. All right, grab myself some water because my throat was starting to get dry. And I grabbed myself some chili. So if you see me eating, I'm eating my dinner. Big old bowl of chili. All right. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and get jumping into the fighter. We've been going for about almost 2 hours now, maybe a little bit less than that. We were kind of hanging out for that first half hour. But I do want to get through this, because I am going to be going live tonight, playing Baldur's Gate over on, with Dad Bods and Dragons. So we're going to go ahead and get through this one quickly. All right, so how has the fighter changed? All right, so previously you can see that action surge was in the past, action surge was defined by stating that you could use it once, and then you had to finish a short or long rest. Now that is, you can see now in there's more than one use of it, just kind of explained a little bit better, actually giving it that that old school style, versus with this one where I think it was just once per short or long rest, so you couldn't use it twice in the same turn. All right, so yeah, we'll look at the overall changes, and then we'll get into everything. So fighting style now lets you replace the feat you choose whenever you gain a fighter level. So what does that mean? Well, basically, at first level, you can take a fighting style feat. So previously, fighting style was just, hey, here's a slew of options. These are the different fighting styles. Go ahead and pick one. Now, the fighting style is more of a feat. It is a fighting style feat, and this gives you that way of changing this every time you get a fighter level. So if at first level you take, say, Great Weapon Master, or you take the Great Weapon Fighting Style, and maybe you're not really huge into it, and you want to switch to dual wielding, you don't have to wait, till your next ability score improvement to take another martial fighting style. You can just do it on your next level up, which I like this versatility. I think this is really good. Second Wind. So previously, Second Wind was that you could use this feature twice, and then you would regain your uses on a long rest. Now you actually get one use back of this on a short rest, which I think is great. They talked about it in the video that they wanted to give more classes some options with their short rest. Like, they wanted to make sure everybody had something to do with their short rest, and so I like that they're giving them the second wind, because that second wind ability is great. And on top of that, in this particular iteration, there is more that the fighter can do with that second wind, which we'll touch on that in a minute. All right, so weapon mastery now maxes out at 6 options instead of 5. Those weapon masteries are like that push, topple, vex, you know, all those things that were introduced a few UAs ago. So with this, you now have up to a maximum of 6, where previously it was up to a maximum of 5. So giving us just some more options, giving those fighters really that identity of being a master of weaponry and a master of fighting style. So really cool change to that one. I really like that. I mean, the weapon mastery is honestly something that is so seamless in Baldur's Gate, because when you pick up a weapon that you're proficient with, it'll have an ability like topple and like push or cleave, and I love that. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be nearly as seamless with pen and paper or like the tabletop version, but I'm kind of hoping that it is. Like, I'm kind of hoping that it's you know, something where it's like, oh yeah, this one just always has that, or like magic items that give you a certain one even though you might not be proficient with it, or you might not have weapon mastery. I really just kind of like those options. Also, making them like once per short rest is also really nice, because it lets you lets you recover those as you're going along. All right, so continuing on, action surge now allows any action except for the magic action. So here's the thing: previously, action surge was that you can take an additional action. Now, this played very well if you were, say, a min-maxer or an optimizer, and you wanted to push for a multi-class with a spellcaster, because the idea was that this extra turn, or this extra action, could be used to double up your spells, or could be used to cast, like, you could make your weapon attacks and then cast a spell with that extra action, say like a fireball. They never actually wanted it to be like that, so now they make it very explicit. It is one additional action except the magic action. But this also means that you cannot use a magic item more than once. Like, you cannot use a magic item as part of the action surge, because that's a magic action to use a magic item. So that kind of sucks, you know, that, but hey, that's the design they're going with. You know, it was rare, in my opinion, to see it being used with magic, but I definitely felt like that was some of the ways that like an Eldritch Knight would go, or somebody that multi-classed into fighter to grab action surge. I don't know. I think there's some pros and cons to it, but I'm a min-maxer, I'm an optimizer. I look at it my way. All right. Tactical Mind is a new second level feature which allows the fighter to excel in or out of combat. So, second level, you have a mind for tactics and getting the upper hand out on and off the battlefield. When you fail an ability check, you can expend a use of your second wind to push yourself towards success. Rather than gaining hit points, you roll 1d10 and add that to your ability check, successfully turning it into a success. If it fails, that use of second wind is not expended. So here is a way. This is kind of like the barbarian getting extra uses of their rage ability. This is a way to have an expendable resource that can be used only one way previously, to now say, hey, maybe you don't need to add hit points right now, but maybe you want to add this d10 to your ability check. Cool, that's great, but what if it fails? Don't worry, you still have it. I like this. I like the way this is designed. I like whenever you give us resources that are limited but you give us multiple things we can do with those. That to me is the key thing. Give me limited resources, but give me a bunch of different options that I can use it for, but give me different things that work off of different resources. Okay, don't make everything only one resource, but also give me the option to do it like on a long rest and then be able to burn that resource. You know, there's different ways to do it. I think this is, I like the way that they're going so far. All right, we got our subclass and our ASI. We have extra attack, so great. Oh yeah, fighter subclass and ability score improvement moved back to where they were. That got moved last time when they were or no, it didn't. Why did I think it did? What did I think they moved? Weird. All right, so Tactical Shift is a new 5th level ability. So when you use your second wind with a bonus action, you can move up to half of your speed without provoking opportunity attacks. So again, another cool way to use your first level feature somewhere else that gives it a bit of a buff. So if you use your second wind, you can now move without doing an opportunity attack. That's a great mobility option. That's good in combat, and that's good out of combat. You know, like if you're interacting with the environment on your turn, great. Use your second wind, move, you know, don't provoke opportunity attacks. This is great. I love this. I love what they're doing so far. This is so cool. All right, Indomitable is basically the exact same thing. If you fail a saving throw, you can re-roll it with a bonus equal to your fighter level. This is going to be once per long rest, and then you get a couple more uses. Master of Armaments replaces Weapon Expert and Weapon Adept at 9th level. So what this means, you are a master of weapons. When you finish a long rest, you can choose any of the kinds of mastery weapons you're using and replace the mastery property of each with another mastery property. The chosen kind of weapon must qualify for the new property. For example, you could replace the longsword's sap property with the push property. So this is giving you the option while you are out on the combat fields in between level ups of giving your weapons more chances to switch and use these different properties, figuring out different ways to use different weapons as you go along. This is really defining what they want the fighter to be, a master of weapons, somebody that is able to use different kinds of fighting styles to best perform on the battlefield. So now obviously it says here this only applies to you, not for others. So if you are to, you know, give somebody a weapon that you know, this long sword that you gave yourself the push property, it's still going to be the sap property for anyone else. All right, studied attacks. I love this one. If you make an attack roll against a creature and miss, you have advantage on your next attack roll against that creature before the end of your next turn. That's smart. That's smart. Like, you go to swing at them and you watch how they dip and dodge out of the way, and it's like, cool, I see how you're doing that. I'm going to now change my stance. I'm gonna adapt. That's what the fighter is now. It's all about adaptation and changing how you're doing stuff. It's really cool. This is a really cool design, and I really like this. And then Unconquerable has been cut. So Unconquerable was that if you fail a save and your Indomitable feature is expended, you can use it again by expending a use of your second wind, which also heals you. So this was just giving you that extra option to use Indomitable where you fail a saving throw. That has been cut, like it says, in favor of Indomitable improving at higher levels. So where was that? Yeah, here we go. So we get more uses of this later on. So instead of it only becoming a once per thing, you get multiple times. All right, moving on to the Subclasses. Now, I know I put in here all the maneuver updates. I'm probably not going to go over all of those because there's a lot. All right. There's a lot, and I don't, it's very involved on how each one of them is used, but we're going to go over the main ones here for the subclass in general. So, Student of War. Let's jump over to the Battle Master. Student of War is going to give you a type of artisan tool and proficiency in one of the skills. So this is a nice upgrade, very simple, but just a simple upgrade from the previous one. Now we already have the combat superiority. This is going to be the different, the different abilities that you can have. Now you will notice right here, you actually have 3 maneuvers previously. Or no, I'm sorry. No, that still say the same. Sorry. I thought it said 2. I don't know why I thought that's, oh, here it is. You learned 2 additional. I thought they limited it for some reason. Okay, cool. I got confused about that. All right. We're jumping down. Here we go. Know your enemy. Previously, this was as a minute. Observing or interacting with another creature outside of combat, you can learn certain things from them, and this is basically whether you are equal to, less than, or greater than their physical skills, their AC, their current hit points, and their levels, if any. Now this is a bonus action to discern the strengths and weaknesses of creatures within 30 feet of you, and you learn what their damage resistances are. So you learn immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities, and this is just now going to be once per long rest, or you can burn a superiority die to get this. So whereas previously it was like, hey, you have to spend a minute to do this, and you might not have that minute to do this, this one is, hey, you have a bonus action and you can find out some good information, but it's only once per long rest. Sorry, I gotta blow my nose real quick. My bad. Dang. All right. 10th level. Your superiority die becomes a D10, much like before. 15th level, you get Relentless. When you roll initiative and have no more superiority dice, you get 1 back. So basically what we had before, but now once per turn, when you use a maneuver, you can roll a D8 and use the number rolled instead of expending a superiority die. So just a kind of shrank down version of it, but just giving you that little bit back. Level 18 becomes a D12, and again, I'm not going to go into all of these for the maneuver updates just because there's a lot. But let's just say a lot of things from Tasha's got added. Ambush and bait and switch, commanding presence. As you can see, some of these were added after the fact. And a lot of stuff that is, like, where was it? Commander Strike up here. You can forego one of your attacks, use a bonus action to direct one of your companion's attacks. So now this is that when you take the attack action, you can replace one of your attacks to direct somebody too. So you're not having to burn one of your bonus, you're not having to burn your bonus action to do this. So there are some changes. Yeah. Like it says here, disarming, distracting, goading, maneuvering, menacing, and precision now work with any type of attack roll. Previously, that was going to be with a weapon attack. They want to get away from that because they want you to do this with unarmed strikes as well. Evasive footwork now lasts until the end of your turn, not when you stop moving. Lunging attack now lets you take the dash action as a bonus action, and adds superiority die if you hit a creature after moving at least 10 feet 10 feet in a straight line. Ooh, neck. Where was it? Parry. Parry now allows you to add your strength or dexterity to the damage reduction. So this is that you can roll a die, reduce some of your damage. Precision now triggers from missing an attack, not before you know whether it hits or not. You know, that's a great quality of life change. Rally now uses intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. So this is going to be that you're kind of bolstering your allies. I believe previously, yeah, it was charisma. You might not be very high in charisma, so you could be, you know, giving them words of wisdom. You could be, you know, giving them some combat strategy. So that's a really good change. And then tactical assessment. So some cool options here. All right, I need a bite. Get some chili. Moving on to our new subclass for the fighter, we got the Brawler. Brawlers focus their training and study not on swordplay and battle tactics, but on the skills needed to turn a punch or kick into a brutal strike and any innocuous object into a deadly weapon. Some brawlers thrive in tavern scuffles and street rumbles, while others excel in espionage, wielding ordinary objects with the deadliness of an assassin's knife. I want you to think with this about not only tavern brawlers, but of like John Wick. Okay, that whole scene of he killed the man, or like, what was it? It was I heard he killed 3 men with a pencil. Okay, or like a cue ball. If you're in a tavern, a chicken wing. If you're sitting there eating and you break a chicken wing and like stab somebody with it, this is the whole idea behind this class. It's all about taking unarmed strikes and improvised weapons to that next level and giving that build its own identity. So obviously we have rules in the previous 2014 PHB about improvised weapons. Like it says here though, the 2024 one will include magic items that enhance unarmed strikes and improvised weapons, and these will support the monk, brawler fighter, college of dance bard, along with other characters who rely on these kinds of weapons. So I'm really glad for this, because I have had to do it in the past where there has been stuff for a monk or for somebody who wants to do unarmed strikes where they don't really get a lot of buffs. You know, they don't get like gloves that do things better for them. And I have played into that. I have made things work with some players, but it's nice that they're now starting to support that. All right, 3rd level, unarmed expert. You can roll 1d6 plus strength in place for your normal damage for an unarmed strike, and if you aren't holding any weapons or a shield when you make the attack roll, this becomes 1d8. So this is just a really cool, like straight up 3rd level buff. Improvised expert, also at 3rd level. You're proficient with improvised weapons. When you finish a long rest, you can choose 1 property from the one-handed list and 1 from the two-handed list. And until the end of your long rest, the one-handed choice applies to one-handed improvised weapons. Two-handed applies to two-handed ones. Whenever you attack with an improvised weapons, you can give it one of the following mastery properties for the attack. So one-handeds can get sap, slow, and vex, and two-handed can get cleave, push, and topple. So you can give a one-handed weapon the light property. That means that you'd be able to dual wield it. Or you can give it thrown, and you get a reasonable range on thrown. And two-handed, you can give reach or a slightly smaller thrown area. I personally love this. I want to be that drunk brawler fighter that sits in a tavern waiting for somebody to pick on him, that just bites down onto a turkey leg and like bites down to the top, shatters the bone, and starts using it as a shank, 1 in each hand. I fucking love that so much. I think it's so cool. This subclass in itself just lends to so much creativity on the battlefield that it's not even funny. But here is what I will say is the downside. if you're playing in a campaign, or your DM is running a campaign in places where there's not a lot of like things laying around for you to turn into improvised weapons, that is going to be a limitation. You know, if you're in a city, you're in a tavern, you're in a like a shop that is getting attacked, or you're in a wizard's tower and there's different things laying around. Oh, cool. You can grab that, you know, you can grab that potion that's sitting there and smash it off the table and turn it into, you know, a knife. Or you can pick up the table that is there and turn it into a giant two-handed weapon and just start hitting people with it. Like, you can do that. But if you're out in a forest, okay, maybe you grab a stick, maybe you grab a rock, maybe you grab a tree branch. You have those opportunities, but I definitely feel like it's not nearly as prevalent as you would be in like a city or something, or a place within civilization, I should say. All right. Level 7 grappling expert. You can make one unarmed strike as a bonus action. When you use unarmed strike in this way, you must choose the grapple or shove option. In addition, at the start of each of your turns, you can deal 1d6 bludgeoning damage to one type of creature grappled to you. So again, this kind of goes back to the whole tavern brawler style, getting in there, grabbing somebody, wrestling them around, dealing that damage, pushing them back. It's very thematic, and I like this because it's giving you that extra one that, okay, cool, I'm gonna grapple someone and that's gonna be my bonus action. Now I can jump on them and like hit them 3 or 4 times. All right, level 10, dirty fighting. You have advantage on attack rolls made with improvised weapons and unarmed strikes against creatures grappled by you. So this plays right in with that level 7. You go up to somebody, you grapple them, and then you just start punching them in the face, okay? And they're right in your arms, you're getting that advantage. You take a couple levels in rogue, shit, now you're getting sneak attack. You know, it's like you're fucking, they think you're going for the stomach, you start punching them in the face. Level 15, improvised specialist. You're a master at making the ordinary deadly. When you hit a creature with an improvised weapon, you can add your proficiency bonus to the damage roll, and the damage die of your two-handed increases to 1d12. In addition, whenever you attack with an improvised weapon, you can use 2 mastery properties from the improvised expert instead of just 1. So again, giving you those different options, giving you the opportunity to be creative with your attacks, getting some extra damage in there, turning you into somebody that is just using the environment. And finally, level 18, unarmed specialist. Your unarmed strikes improve to 1d8, or yeah, 1d8, and if you aren't holding any weapons or a shield, this increases to 1d10. I love this. It basically turns your unarmed strikes into what's essentially a longsword. So really sick. I really like this. I would love to mix this with a monk. There's some really cool stuff you could combine this into a monk with. So I'm excited to see how the monk turns out later on, to see if things really change. All right, moving on to the champion. Remarkable athlete replaces adaptable victor and moves to level 3. So previously we actually did have the champion in here. So level 3 was that you have studied your friends and foes alike. When you finish a long rest, you can gain proficiency in 1 skill from those available in the first level, and this lasts until your long rest. This has been replaced with, thanks to your athleticism, you have advantage on initiative rolls and athletics checks. In addition, when you make a running long jump, the distance you can cover increases by a number of feet equal to your strength modifier. If I'm not mistaken, I actually think this is, Yeah, so the running long jump is exactly the same as it was before. Now, keep in mind, this was also a level 7 feature, okay? We are now getting this at 3rd level, so we're getting this very early on, but this getting reduced kind of gives you a little bit of that benefit. Advantage on initiative and athletics checks does balance out with getting to add half of your proficiency bonus to strength, dex, and con checks that don't use your proficiency. I really like this. I like getting you faster into combat, being more athletic, and keeping that jump distance, because that was kind of missed over here. You know, the whole champion thing is about being that pinnacle of like martial training and physical prowess. All right, so then we have previously we had the improved critical. You crit on a 19 or a 20, an additional fighting style, heroic warrior. So this was previously once per combat you can give yourself heroic advantage if you start your turn without it, and then that is basically the same here. During combat you can give yourself heroic advantage when you start a turn without it. Now this is the big difference. This is no longer once per combat. I think that's what it was saying over here. Now, heroic advantage is the one that people will remember is the rename for inspiration. So basically, if you start your turn without inspiration, you gain inspiration. Okay? So it means that you're going to be getting advantage more often than probably anybody else, because you can basically give yourself advantage at the like on any one of your attacks on your turn, and if you use it the way that I do it, where it's much more of a if you miss you can re-roll and have to take the new one, that's very much to their benefit. Thorn Sabato, thanks so much for the follow, buddy. I appreciate it. How you doing today? There is a new UA. If you are curious to look at it yourself, there is the link, my friend. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah, we're just going over it. I'm good. I'm eating some, I got some chili in front of me. I got a big old jug of water, and we're jumping in. We're about halfway through the fighter right now. We talked about the fighter in itself. We talked about the battle master and the new brawler subclass, the unarmed and improvised weapon expert fighting subclass, and right now we're talking about how the champion has mostly stayed the same compared to what it used to be, and also in the last 5th UA, but the difference is that now every combat, if you start a turn without heroic advantage, or what old inspiration used to be, you just get that. So hey, good for those fighters. Champion is all about just when it's your turn, you're hitting somebody and you're hitting them hard. That's the whole entire design. Hopefully this one's better than the previous UA. I will say, so far, looking at the Barbarian and the Fighter, for what I've seen, I have liked it, but it is because, in my opinion, they have gone back to their roots, back to the 2014 version, and just taken that and given them benefits and add-ons onto what they had before. Instead of sitting there and like trying to come up with all brand new things, they basically said, okay, let's take this old one and let's just add on to it. Let's give them some new some better versions of this stuff. And honestly, that's where I think the new version of D&D really needs to go. All right. Now we're moving on to the last subclass that is in here, the Eldritch Knight. And I have to say, the Eldritch Knight has very much made, the new Eldritch Knight has very much made me want to play a new Eldritch Knight. Okay, I played an Eldritch Knight at one point who was an undead. He was an undead revenant Eldritch Knight. this is one of the best changes they could have done. So first off, previously it was that when you picked your spells, they had to be from the abjuration or evocation schools. Now that is not the case. You could go illusion, you could do conjuration, divination, illusion. You're not stuck to protection and, you know, energy damage or destruction magic. You now have more options, and I really like that. Also, you can actually use a spell casting focus. Beforehand, you didn't actually get to use an arcane focus. So if you want to have that material component, you can now have that. I think that's really cool. You know, because it's more flavor than anything, but I think it's nice. I think everything as far as the spells is exactly the same. Let me just double check. Yeah, spells is all exactly the same, so I'm not going to go into that. Yes, that's exactly it. Get some necromancy Eldritch Knight in there, a fucking Death Knight. That would be sick. Oh my god, that's a great idea. And see, that's the thing. Lifting that limitation right there, just the ability to not have to be stuck between abjuration and evocation, opens up the floodgates for all kinds of new character builds. All right, so War Bond has pretty much stayed the same. You learn a ritual that creates a bond between yourself and a weapon. This can be done on a short rest. It takes an hour. Once you have bonded with a weapon, you cannot be disarmed of it, and you can summon it to your hand. You can have 2 bonded weapons at any given time, but can only summon 1 at a time. If you try and bond with a third one, the first one breaks. It's exactly the same. War magic has now changed, though. Previously, it was that when you use your action to cast a cantrip, you can make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action. Now, it is that when you take the attack action, you can replace one of the attacks with a cantrip that has a casting time of 1 action. That, in my opinion, is so much better. 1, you're not burning your bonus action to just get 1 attack. 2, when you start getting extra attacks, your war magic isn't just getting screwed over because you want to cast a cantrip. 3, it incentivizes you to use your cantrips now. Because what's the point of having cantrips with an action if you have to risk losing all of your attacks? At a 7th level as a 7th level Eldritch Knight, you have extra attack. What would I rather do? Would I rather cast, Firebolt and potentially get 2d10 fire damage? Or would I rather cast it with my Great Axe or my Great Sword in my hand and get 4d12 damage? I mean, the fact that you can now replace this is phenomenal. It just adds to the versatility of being an Eldritch Knight. And they talked about this in the video that they put out, where they said that the Eldritch Knight had a lower damage threshold than any other fighter subclass, because you are oftentimes having to kind of balance out your timing and how much you actually used your attacks versus spells. So I love that they changed this up. We have Eldritch Strike, which has basically stayed the same. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, that creature has disadvantage on the next save it takes made against a spell. Arcane Charge is the same thing. You can teleport 30 feet to an unoccupied space, and you can teleport before or after the additional action. And this is with your action surge, mind you. And then here is the other one. When you take the attack action on your turn, you can replace 2 of the attacks with a casting of one of your wizard spells that has a casting time of an action. Okay? No longer is it that when you cast a spell, you can make one. No, we're not doing that. War magic is changed. War magic got improved. Now, as it says here, Wait, when you take, you can replace 2 of the attacks with the casting of one of your spells that has casting of an action. Oh, okay. I actually want to point out here, this does not actually explain the truth behind what they have in the design notes. So the design note says, improved war magic now allows you to replace 2 of your attacks with the casting of a level 1 or 2 spell. This just says you replace 2 of the attacks with the casting of one of your wizard spells that has a casting time of an action. Technically speaking, you can get up to 3rd and 4th level spells. So arguably at 18th level, at 19th level, at 18th level, you would have access to a 3rd level spell. So they need to put that in here. But I will say, the simple ability to be able to cast a spell by burning some of your extra attacks and then still getting your bonus action, that's just so good. I love what they did to the Eldritch Knight. I think that their changes are in the right direction. It now makes it something where you don't feel like you should have, it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing anything anymore. It feels like, great, I can be this martial caster who's out here casting spells and swinging my sword, and I'm actually still contributing. I'm doing as much damage as any other fighter would be, looking at it on the average. I love this. I never actually knew a subclass existed. Oh yeah, no, Eldritch Knight's been around since the beginning, and it has always been a really cool subclass. But the problem is that it was so limited on the spells that you could take because it was kept down between abjuration and evocation, and also the fact that you had to figure out, like, did I want to swing my swords or did I want to cast a spell? Because of how this war magic was worded, it's one of those things that not a lot of people actually played up. But now, honestly, it's going to be so much better. Getting more opportunities for attacks and damage output, but also just the ability to use other spell schools. So good. So good. I can't wait to see how that's played up later. Never actually played a fighter before. I've only played paladin, rogue, monk, also a wizard, artificer, multi-class at one point. Nice. Well, hey, you got a hell of a range though, at least. I mean, you got you got charisma based tank support, you got stealth. I mean, you got two good martial or ranged dex builds, and wizard, artificer. I mean, obviously the best and only intelligence support classes. So I mean, hey, sounds like you played some fun characters, at least with those. I also played an artificer, played a paladin and a rogue, and a monk as well, so, and a wizard. But yeah, should play a fighter. Honestly, in my opinion, I think fighters are one of the best classes, because I feel like when you play a fighter, because you don't have near the same like grandiose abilities that, say, spellcasters use, or like that rogues or monks do with their sneak attacks and with their key points. It really makes you be more creative in how you play, and also how you present your character, and how you kind of role play your character. It puts more of that onto who you are building as a person. I had a fighter who was an Echo Knight, and I absolutely loved him. I thought he was the coolest thing ever, and I only got to play him a couple times, but I would love to play that new Eldritch Knight. I'll revamp my old General Mills character, a Revenant Eldritch Knight. That'll probably be my next one. All right, well, we are moving on to Sorcerer.
I miss General Mills. I have to read through his stuff again. Alrighty then, so off the bat, you can see that much like in the 5th UA, they have gone back. I gotta zoom these out a bit. Wait, that should be 150. All right, that's a little better. As you can see, the original UA, the original sorcerer had the meta magic starting at 3rd level. Obviously in the 5th UA, they had that coming online at 2nd, and they've kept that here. So I'm really happy with that. I think that's the best option. But let's look at some of these new changes. Now, I will say, and if you watched this channel before and you were here hanging out whenever they introduced the 5th UA, you will know that I was not a fan of what they did to the sorcerer and the warlock. Okay? And the reason for that is because of stuff like this. 1st level, innate sorcery. You always have Sorceress Blast and Chaos Bolt prepared. Okay, cool. That's a 1st level class feature that just gives me 2 spells. Okay, thanks. Right down here, 5th level. This is when classes come online, they say. This is where fighters get access to extra attack. This is where wizards get fireball, okay? At 5th level as this sorcerer, guess what? You got another spell prepared. Congrats. 7th level, you always have Arcane Eruption prepared. 9th level, you always have Sorcery Incarnate prepared. These are great, okay? I love spells. I love when classes give me spells. But guess what? I hate when classes give a player spells and then doesn't say something like, hey, you can cast this once per day without expending a spell slot. Because guess what? You're just giving them something that they now have to burn through their already limited resource to use. Your entire class feature is reliant on you burning through your spells that you're already having to pick other spells to do stuff with. I was so frustrated with this the last time, and I am glad to say that it got somewhat resolved. So let's take a look at it. 1st level, innate sorcery. As a bonus action, you can unleash the magic within you for 1 minute. During this time, the spell save DC of your sorcerer spells increases by 1, and you have advantage on attack rolls of sorcerer spells you cast. And you can use this twice, gaining them back on a long rest. That right there, that's a 1st level feat. That is fucking innate sorcery, okay? For 1 minute, you are using that innate magic, whatever gave you this spark of arcane energy. You are using that to bolster yourself, to benefit yourself. You're tapping into it. It's not just, oh, hey, you get access to these 2 spells and you have to burn your spell slots. This is so much better. I absolutely love this. This is so cool. I'm so happy that they did this. Now, I do want to stand by. I personally think that sorcerers should be constitution-based casters. I'm not going to die on that hill today. I just wanted to say that. Okay, so here we go. Innate sorcery empowers your spells and attack rolls and DCs for a limited time. Awesome. All right, spell casting, like it says on here, returns to using the sorcerer spell list. This is a big thing. We haven't talked about spellcasters yet. They got rid of the whole arcane con-based sorcerers would make sense. They do. The only reason why wizards will never do a con-based sorcerer is because Constitution is also based on hit points, and it could make your character be essentially a whereas like a wizard is, you want your high scores to be in intelligence, con, and dex for your spell casting, your hit points, and your initiative. Or for a warlock, it's charisma, constitution, dex. Same with sorcerer. If you had a sorcerer be a constitution based caster, then you're basically looking at constitution and dexterity as being the two main things, and you really don't need anything else. I still stand by though that it should be con, because it's from internal. It's within you. It's not your outer appearance. It's not your, you know, I don't think charisma is the right one, but again, I'm not going to die on that hill today. Yeah, so like I said, spellcasting, they have gone away from using the arcane, the primal, and the divine spell list. That was something that they had in previous editions. That is something that Pathfinder does. But the problem is, and they talked about this in the YouTube video where they went over these this UA between Todd Kenrick and Jeremy Crawford. There are just so many things that are like specific to certain classes that make doing those arcane spell lists just infeasible. Not only that, but a lot of people apparently complained, or at least rose concern, that the wizard who was supposed to have, the wizard is supposed to have the biggest spell list. Okay, the wizard is supposed to have access to the most spells. That's the whole identity of the wizard, is that you are a master of magic. Okay, and that you have a high intellect, and that you have a high repertoire of spells, and making it so that, you know, basically the wizard, the warlock, and the sorcerer all get access to the same spell list, the same grand spell list, kind of takes away that, you know, that one thing that makes the wizard unique. So I am kind of glad that they went back to the way things were, where it's like, oh, this is on the sorcerer spell list and this is on the wizard spell list. Now, I will agree that as somebody like me who does homebrew spells every now and again, I would have preferred just to have the three. You know, oh, this is an arcane spell. Oh, this is a divine spell. This is a primal spell. But I know why they didn't. So I'm okay with it, and I understand. But they do talk about on here that the sorcerer list now includes Sorcerous Burst and Arcane Eruption. So you're still able to get those. Look at that, wizards. You can have a fucking class feature and still give them these spells. Phenomenal. This is the whole reason why I felt like this is the whole reason why the whole new, like, going back to having class specific spell lists is so much better, because you don't have fucking shit like this. God, what a pain in the ass. Okay, so moving on. Font of Magic no longer requires a bonus action to convert spell slots into sorcery points. Well, what are they talking about? Well, right here, as it says, here it is. As a bonus action on your turn, you can expend one spell slot to gain a number of sorcery points. And this was the same way in the opposite direction. So now, to convert spell slots into sorcery points, it's just no action. You are simply expending a spell slot to gain those sorcery points equal to the slot's level. It just means that there's more versatility, that you can actually use that ability in combat more often than you would before. So a nice little upgrade. I feel like D&D could use some new spells. If you're constantly playing the same classes, it just gets old. However, I suppose that's where homebrew comes in. That's also where other source books come into play. You know, that's a big feature. But the reality is that for the most part, you are going to have a lot of the same spells pop up here and there. You know, that's honestly why, though, you want to jump from like different like class type to class type. You know, sorcerer and wizard and warlock are oftentimes going to have a lot of the same spells, but a bard's going to have a different repertoire. They're going to have more healing and support. So again, it lets you see a different side of it. You know, also it depends on the kind of the kind of character that you're playing. So I love playing support characters. I love playing characters that are healing. I like playing characters that are buffing my allies and debuffing the enemies. That is very much my play style. But I do love whenever I jump over and play a destruction, you know, evoker wizard who's just slinging fireballs and lightning bolts, you know, left and right. But, you know, like you said before about the necromancy eldritch knight, that would be really sick because you could raise dead. You could cast, you know, enervating energy and stuff like that to really play into a different play style. So, but I do agree, like once you've like seen all the spells, you kind of see what they do. Yeah, it is nice to have that new flavor. So 100%, like homebrew is where it's at, in my opinion. That's honestly like what I dig, is just going through and looking at all the homebrew. That's honestly why I have all the books that I have, because I have like I have so many books that are just like all kinds of different spells. Like if you give NPC classes like a Lich Necromancy Eldritch Knight would be an awesome enemy. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, definitely that would be a hell of an enemy. I mean, you could honestly just shorten that down to a Lich Eldritch Knight, because Lich already kind of presupposes necromancy. So but I mean, what that basically would be a Death Knight. That's essentially what that is a because I mean, a Lich is going to be any wizard who seeks their own immortality through accursed magic, and an Eldritch Knight is going to be any martial character that dips into the arcane abilities. So to have somebody who kind of combines that both, you're looking at a Death Knight. Ow. Here we go. Yeah, Death Knight, CR 17. Look at all these spell slots. Command, Compel Duel, Searing Smite, Hold Person, Dispel Magic, Banishment, Destructive Wave, Hellfire Orb. You slap some extra necromancy spells on there, like Raise Dead, and you know, let's look at some oh, here we go. Do you have anything new? Fear Aura. That's like, what is that from? Oh, that's from the Monster Manual expanded. Yeah, we'll look at let's look at some spells. Let's look at some necromancy spells, some higher level necromancy spells. All right, let's reset that. Let's turn off the UA that the whatchamacallit. Not a UA, but the homebrew. Yeah, we're gonna go filter out for necromancy and then sort this by level. Yeah, like I said, you could put on there Chill Touch and Sapping Sting if you want some earlier level stuff. Inflict Wounds is great because that scales up powerfully. Animate Dead and Summon Undead are two great ones if you want to get some minions into there. Same with Create Undead. Finger of Death to just drop somebody and turn them into a skeleton, raise dead, circle of death. Like, you could swap out, like, seriously, take any one of these spells, swap them out with some from the necromancy list, like animate dead, life transference, spirit shroud, and shadow of moil. I mean, dance macabre would be perfect, and then boom, right there you have a lich knight. That would be so sick. So yeah, also I love the art of death knights. I think they are so cool. They're like glowing eyes. Yeah. All right, back to where we were. All right, yeah, so moving on from font of magic, meta magic, onto like the main aspect of what makes sorcerers. So previously in the original version, you had two meta magic options at 3rd level. Then you gained your 3rd one at 10th and your 4th one at 17th. This got upped in the 5th version of the UA, where it was now you had 3 at 2nd level and you got 3 more later on at 13th. They have altered this to where you still get 6, but it's spread out a little bit more. So now you get 2 at 2nd level, and then you get 2 more at 10th and 2 more at 17th. So you still end up with 6, but it does kind of spread out more along the life of the campaign. It's still only 1 use per turn until you reach a certain level, but you know, I'm okay with that. The subclass being at 3rd level returns to the way that things were back in so sorceress subclass returns to the 2014 level progression, with the exception that you no longer gain your subclass at 1st level. Okay, so you're no longer gaining your sorceress origin at 1st level, you're now gaining it at 3rd. I don't agree with this, and I think you should have that at 1st level. I think this is bad, in my opinion. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. I don't like that. I think it's dumb. You know, like, I think for a sorcerer, I understand that there is a I understand that it's for like any other subclass, there's a huge gap. Okay, there's a huge gap between these, but it's supposed to be your origin. It's still literally called sorceress. Well, now it's sorceress subclass, but it's literally your innate magic. It's part of who you are. And maybe they're trying to change that. Maybe it's that, you know, you have something within you and that's what your innate sorcery is, but it manifests into something later. I don't know. I personally am still a fan of it being at 1st level. I also believe clerics should have theirs at 1st level. And I also believe paladins should have theirs at 1st level. Also warlocks. Okay, anyone who takes an oath, anyone who takes a contract, worships a certain god, or has something innate to them, I think they should be at 1st level. Okay, I think wizards is fine to be at 2nd level because it like gives you time to really like, oh yeah, I've been practicing and now this is starting to come out. And everyone else being 3rd level is fine. It's like, hey, I have this thing I'm doing and now I'm finally specializing. But I honestly think if it's like an innate thing or like more of like a holy thing, like a divine aspect, I think that should come with a little bit more. I think that should come a lot earlier. So moving on from that, sorceress vitality is gone. Fucking great. Sorceress restoration has moved from 15th level to 5th level. If you have no sorcery points when you roll initiative, this feature restores a certain amount. So previously, Sorceress Restoration was up here at 15th level, and this was that you regain 4 expended sorcery points when you roll initiative or finish a short rest. Now, it is that when you roll initiative or finish a short rest and you have none remaining, you gain an amount equal to your level divided by 5. This is another one of those class feature designs that I really like. Instead of giving me something at 15th, 16th, 17th level that does this crazy thing that restores all these different things for me, but I have to wait till I get to that point, give it to me earlier, but make it a little bit weaker, okay? Oh man, at 15th level, I get 4 sorcery points when I finish an initiative or short rest. Guess what? Most campaigns will never see 15th level. You won't ever benefit from that. Now, oh shit, at 5th level, I get to restore a sorcery point when I start initiative or finish a short rest. Baller. I can now use my sorcery points more often. I'm now more incentivized to use them. It's fucking awesome. I like this. I love this. I'm loving the redesign so much. Sorceress Incarnate moved from 9th level down to 7th and has basically changed. Okay, so previously this was that you got the Sorcery Incarnate spell. For those of you that don't remember how fucking stupid that spell was, let's jump down. Or no, I think in this one you had to actually scroll the whole way up. Yeah. Where was it? Sorcery Incarnate. Here it is. Yeah, you can use up to 2 meta magic options on each spell you cast, provided you pay the sorcery points. You have advantage on attack rolls of every spell you cast for up to a minute. Okay, that was a spell effect. Okay, that we got as a spell effect. It was a bonus action to use that spell. Okay, I want you to remember that. That was Sorcery Incarnate. Now, while your innate sorcery feature is active, so for this minute right here, where you're getting a bump to your DC and you're getting advantage on sorcery spells, you now can use 2 of your meta magic options on each spell you cast. And if you have no uses of innate sorcery left, if you spend 2 sorcery points, you can use it when you take the bonus action. Holy shit. It's almost like it's exactly the same design as the spell, but it's a class feature. And instead of having to burn a spell slot, you're using a recoverable resource. Holy shit, wizards. You actually did it right. I'm proud of you. So proud. All right. Now we're moving on to 20th level, the capstone, Arcane Apotheosis. While your 1 minute innate sorcery feature is active, you can use 1 meta magic option on each of your spells without spending sorcery points on it. Guess what? That's sick. That is awesome. Okay? You're letting me use the thing that is specific to my class without having to burn a resource. Cool. Guess what I don't like? I don't like when fucking sorcerers just have wish prepared. Okay? I'm so glad they got rid of this. Because this was just, oh yeah, you just have wish and you don't have the stress of casting it. This new Arcane Apotheosis, some people might see it as a little weak. You know, oh, one of your uses of meta magic is free. Guess what? That could be one of the ones that is like, you know, 2 points. Okay, you can now cast your spell as a bonus action for free. That's fucking awesome. Give yourself Wait, I forget what this one is. Yeah, that's right. You get to basically roll advantage on it. You get to twin your spell, which I'm gonna get to twin. Twin got fucked. Overall, I like this. I think this is a lot better. Okay. Hey wizards, if you're out there listening to me, you did this one right. I yelled at you the last time for all of this, the whole sorceress burst and sorceress vitality and arcane eruption and sorcery incarnate. Guess what? You did it right. I'm so proud of you. So proud of you. JC out there, good for you, buddy. You did this one right. Because if we look at it beyond that, it's like everything else is just your ability score improvements and your subclass features. It doesn't have to be crazy, man. All we want is like, give us some spells to cast, give us some class features that don't rely on us casting our fucking spells. Okay? There's nothing I hate more than when a fucking class feature is like, hey, burn your spells more often. No, give me some resource that I can burn. And with this, it's this beautiful little innate sorcery ability. Okay? It's this nice little use that gives you some benefit that you can then upgrade as you go along. That's how classes should be designed. That's how shit needs to look. All right. Moving on. There has been some changes to meta magic, and we're just gonna touch on these. Okay. Distant spell returns to doubling the range. So previously, distant spell was that it added 30 feet onto your, or it was that increases the range equal to 30 feet times your sorcery level. It is now simply doubling it. Okay. Yay. We're going back to the days of being able to like fucking launch do a Soarlock build and being able to do the Eldritch Sniper. Good. I'm glad. I think this is such a better option. Just give us back that double. Good for you. Seeking spell now costs 2 points, or no, costs 1 point instead of 2. It never made sense that you needed 2 points when you have to use the new roll. It would make sense if it was 2 points and you got advantage. And I've personally always felt like it should have been you spend 2 points and you get advantage, but that's me. Subtle spell now clarifies that it doesn't remove material components as part of the casting. So previously, when you cast a spell, you can spend 1 point to cast without any verbal, somatic, or material components, except material components that are consumed by the spell. So it is now that that have a cost specified in the spell. So this previous one meant that if it was like, oh, this requires a gold brazier worth 25 gold, but it wasn't consumed, that meant that you could subtle spell it without that material cost. They've added that back in, which that's smart, because the material cost ones is what keeps things, keeps people from abusing certain spells. And now onto the one that hurts me the most, Twinned Spell. Now, for those of you that don't know, Twinned Spell used to work like this. When you cast a spell that targets only one creature that doesn't have a range of self, you can spend a number of points equal to the spell's level to target a second creature in range of the same spell. 1 point if it's a cantrip. To be eligible, a spell must be incapable of targeting more than one creature for the spell's current level. For example, Magic Missile and Scorching Ray are not eligible because when you shoot Magic Missile, you can have multiple missiles hit multiple targets. Granted, you can have them hit one target, but it is that they must be incapable of targeting more than one creature. Same with Scorching Ray. Scorching Ray creates 3 fire beams. When you cast that, you can hit multiple targets or just one. But Ray of Frost, that targets one creature. Chromatic Orb targets one creature. So it was very simple. Does this spell only at any time target one creature? Cool, you can twin it. Guess what? They took that the whole fucking away. Now it is spells like Charm Person that say Charm Person, blah 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 blah, the spell's effects. At higher level, when you cast this using a second level or higher spell slot, you can target one additional creature for each slot above first. This twinned spell has gone from letting you cast Ray of Frost at 2 separate creatures, or like it shows on here, Chromatic Orb at 2 separate creatures, that it is now only eligible for spells like Charm Person and Hold Person, where if a spell specifies that you can target additional creatures by upcasting it, you can burn a sorcery point to do that. That hurt, Wizards. That hurt. Okay, I thought we had something really good with the sorcerer. That hurts. Now I'm gonna forgive you for now, but we're gonna have a talk. Okay, we're gonna have a talk, and that's gonna be when you put out the survey. We're gonna have a big talk. Okay, I move on from that. All right, on to the subclass. Now, we saw Draconic Sorcery before, so we're going to compare it to that. So here's a big thing. The naming for all the subclasses has changed. So previously it was, Draconic Bloodline, Divine Soul, Clockwork Soul, Aberrant Mind. Okay, this is now getting changed into this got changed in the 5th version, where it's now just X sorcery. So Draconic Sorcery, Aberrant Sorcery, Clockwork Sorcery. So we're gonna get into this. First off, Draconic Resilience basically stays the same thing. Your hit point maximum increases by 3 and increases by 1 when you gain a level. It's basically the same as the Tough feat. Also, you get a buff to your armor class equal to 10 plus Dex plus your spellcasting modifier, which is Charisma. But Dragon Speech now gives you the Draconic language, while creatures of the dragon type understand your language. You don't necessarily understand them. So previously, this was that at 3rd level, your Draconic gift allows your speech to be understood by all creatures of the dragon type, and you understand their communication. It is now that you can speak, read, and write Draconic. In addition, your speech can be understood by all dragon types. So as long as they're speaking Draconic, you can speak to them, but that doesn't mean that you can understand them. Okay, it's why it's called Dragon Speech, not Dragon Listen. Okay. I don't necessarily agree with this. I think that they should give you the option to understand them. If you're gonna talk in their language, don't you think you should understand what you're doing? I don't know. I mean, you can speak, read, and write. All right. So if you can read Draconic, why can't you understand it? I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, if you can talk it, wouldn't you eventually pick it up? Right. But if they don't want it to be like that, they need to put it in there that says something along the lines of your Draconic gift allows your speech to be understood by all creatures of the dragon type, period. You can speak, read, and write Draconic. That's put that first, okay? I mean, I guess they do. I don't know. They need to have something in there that is that's regardless of your languages, creatures of the dragon type understand it. Okay. Yeah. So that's it. It's it would be it would be more, they need to explain it more of like, you're not speaking Draconic, you're speaking normally, but they can understand you. But it's very hard to explain that in a little blurb. So yeah, it's basically auto-translate. So the problem with that is that it doesn't sound good. I don't know. This probably will get changed. You know, just make it you understand Draconic. You know, like let that be simple. Honestly, I would be better if they just went back to this. Let it be speech, okay? Let it be that you can speak to dragons and they can you can understand them, they can understand you. Get rid of read and write. I'd rather just be able to speak to and understand dragons rather than being able to read and write it. That's what I would want. It's called dragon speech, not dragon reading, not dragon writing. If I can write if I can write in Draconic, why can't I fucking, you know, understand it? I don't know. Okay. So moving on from that, we have basically the same thing with elemental affinity. Your Draconic magic has an affinity with one of the dragon types. Would speak with animals work on a dragon? No. Speak with animals does not work with dragons because speak with animals specifies that it has to be a beast, and dragons are dragons. So elemental affinity is basically the same thing. Based on your Draconic affinity, you gain resistance to a type, and you can add your charisma modifier to those damage spells. Awesome. We lost Draconic exhalation. Obviously, we lost sorceress burst, so that means we're gonna lose that. And guess what we got back? We got back the better version of dragon wings. Okay, let's take a look at that. Dragon wings. Your innate magic now manifests as Draconic wings. As a bonus action, you sprout the wings, and you gain a flying speed equal to your movement speed. They last until dismissed, or until until you dismiss them as a bonus action or are incapacitated. When they manifest, you decide whether they're spectral or physical. If physical, you mustn't be wearing something that obstructs them. I fucking love that. These goddamn gnats. I fucking love that, okay? At 14th level, this is what we used to have before. It's a bonus action to just make them, okay? And then it's a bonus action to dismiss them. They wanted to take that away, all right? As you can see on here, before, it was that when you cast a spell, you sprout wings and gain a fly speed and can hover, and you can flap them to unleash magical energy. Okay, I don't fucking need that. I don't want to have to burn a spell to be able to use my subclass feature. This is so much better. Guess what, wizards? You did good on that one. Congratulations. All right, moving on to Draconic Presence. This replaces Draconic Exhalation, which we had over here. And it is now a bonus action, doesn't require concentration. So previously, this was Draconic Presence was that at 18th level, as an action, you spend 5 sorcery points to draw on this power and exude an aura of awe or fear for 1 minute or until you lose concentration. Each hostile creature that starts its turn within 60 feet of you makes a wisdom save and is charmed or frightened until the aura ends. Okay. This is now that as a bonus action, you can basically do the same thing. And that's fucking great because they tried doing that with this Draconic Exhalation and nobody fucking wanted it. Okay? God, this is the point I made from the very beginning. Wizards finally realized what we wanted by going back to what they had before. Okay? Now, the one thing though that I will say is that they took away the whole thing of if a creature succeeds the save, it's immune for 24 hours. you can still have them trying to do that. Granted, 5 sorcery points is a lot, but honestly, you could keep trying at it and potentially get them with it. All right, and then we have our very last one, wild magic for the sorcerer. And I'm just going to give a heads up. After I go through wild magic sorcerer, I'm probably going to end the stream after that. Mostly because we've been going for about 3 hours, but also because I'm going to then eat my dinner, and I'm going to be back around 8:30 with the members of Dad Bods and Dragons, and we are going to be playing through some more Baldur's Gate 3 tonight. So I want to make sure that I have some energy and time for that. All right, so wild magic sorcery. Let's take a look at how this has changed. So, damn gnats. All right, so wild magic surge no longer requires the DM permission. So the way that used to work before is immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell of 1st or higher level, the DM can have you roll a d20. If you roll 1, a random effect occurs. So that's what it was. Now it is that your spell casting can unleash surges of untamed magic. No more than once per turn, you can roll a d20 immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell with a spell slot. If you roll a 20 on roll on the wild magic surge table to create a magic effect. If the magic effect is a spell, it is too wild to be affected by your meta magic. If it normally requires concentration, it doesn't, blah, blah, blah. Basically the same. They learned to listen with all the negative feedback they were getting because of all the bad changes. Yeah. So I fucking love this. This is one of those things that kind of plays out very similar to giving a mechanical reason behind the heroic inspiration, where instead of it being required that the DM hand it out because of roleplay or certain things, this is now just, hey, the play. Oh, geez. I love this electric fly swatter, I just want to say. It is now that, hey, guess what? You can make the choice to have wild magic happen. You can choose to try and manifest this. That's great. I love that. Put it in the player's hands. Don't make it something the DM has to remember. The DM already has too much to go on. All right, so Tides of Chaos. You can manipulate the forces of chance and chaos to gain advantage on 1d20 test. Once you do so, you must finish a long rest before you use this again. And immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell with a spell slot, before you regain the use of this feature, you can automatically roll on the wild magic surge table and gain use of this again. So you give yourself advantage. Then, after you cast a spell, guess what? I'm going to roll wild magic so I can get my Tides of Chaos back. Okay? It's basically the same thing. It's just, it's no longer that the DM is having to have you do that, which I love. So kudos to them. The DM no longer requires it, and Tides of Chaos is now a guarantee. So it's, ooh, I love this. I love this. All right. 6th level, Bend Luck. Bend Luck now costs 1 sorcery point instead of 2. So previously you use your reaction, you spent 2 points to roll the d4 and add it to your a bonus or a penalty to some creature's roll. So now it's 1 point. Gotta love that. Controlled Chaos is basically the same thing. You gain a modicum of control over the surges of your wild magic. When you roll, you can roll twice and take either one. So awesome, getting a little bit of control over your wild magic. And now Wild Bombardment now allows you to use the wild magic surge effect that casts a spell or that replenishes your spell. So previously, beginning at 18th level, the harmful energy of your spells intensifies. When you roll damage for a spell or roll the highest possible number on any die, choose one of the dice, roll it again, and add that to the damage. It is now, immediately after you cast a sorcerer spell with a spell slot, you can create an effect of your choice from the Wild Magic search table, provided it casts a spell or restores all of your expended sorcery points. Once you use this, you cannot do it again until you finish 1d4 long rest. So this is just giving you the choice to say, okay, I want to I'm gonna cast a spell, and then I'm immediately going to cast a spell, and then I'm immediately going to use my wild magic surge to cast magic missile at 5th level, or I'm going to cast remove curse, or no, that's not the right one. I'm going to cast fog cloud. I'm going to cast levitate. I'm going to cast polymorph for mirror image, or cast fly on a random creature. I love this. I think this is really cool. I do honestly think the 1d4 long rest is a bit much. I don't know if I would do it that long, because I mean, 4 long rests is quite a while to get back that use. But I will say that is also an 18th level ability, and as I have said multiple times before, most players don't ever see those kind of levels. So it's not the end of the world that is as high as it is. Okay, so we're on to the Warlock, and like I said, this is where I'm going to be calling it for the night. Just because, as you can see, Warlock has a lot of changes with it, so I want to give it the time that it deserves to go over a lot of the changes, because if you remember from the last UA, the Warlock got a lot of hate because they really changed a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of changes that go into that, and then we got to talk about the wizard, because now they have an opportunity to play into some of the subclasses that we're going to be talking about, and then we also have some changes to the spells. You know what? Maybe we'll talk about that real quick, because I do have a couple minutes. So you know what? Before we head off, let me come down here and let's talk about some of the spells that have changed. Okay. So, like it says on here, the arcane, divine, and primal lists are gone. All spell casting classes return to having their own spell list. I think that's a good idea. I know why they did it. I know why they wanted to do the simplified list, but I understand why they needed to go back to the classes. Arcane Eruption now requires a dexterity save rather than a con save, which makes total sense. You are literally creating an explosion that happens. That should always be anything that's like a physical thing that, you know, kind of is a physical explosion, no matter what the damage type is, except for really psychic should be dexterity, and psychic should be wisdom, if anything else. Counterspell. Counterspell has a huge change. Counterspell is no longer something that you are rolling for. It is now something that a creature is rolling against, okay? So when a wizard casts a spell at one of your teammates and you cast Counterspell, previously you would make a roll using, you would make an ability check using your spellcasting ability modifier. The DC would equal 10 plus the spell's level, and on a success, it would fail. This new version is that the creature who casts the spell makes a con saving throw against your spell save DC. And if they fail that, it dissipates and they get to keep the spell slot. Okay, so this works in both sides. Okay, this means that if you're casting a spell and I, as the DM, am countering it, and I successfully counter it because you roll poorly, you don't lose that spell slot. I think that's an upgrade, and I also think giving the initial caster the ability to like roll themselves, I think that's also a really good change. So I know there's going to be some discussion about whether or not these changes to the spells to counterspell is good or bad. I actually really like it because it allows for the initial caster to have a little bit more of a say-so in, you know, whether or not they succeed or not. So I like that. Eldritch Blast and Hex revert to their original 2014 forms. Good. It was so dumb for them, you know, being like, I forget how they even like how they even like specified them. Oh yeah, it was just like, oh yeah, it's just like, it's its own spell, but it's, you know, a cantrip, and now it's back, it's only warlock levels. That's not the case anymore. It's still back to being a warlock spell, but guess what? Now anybody can take it again. It can go back into like an arcane adept, which is good. It's what I would prefer. Jump is a big spell that got a really good change. Okay, so jump is now a bonus action, and it no longer requires your strength or speed, and it can also be upcast. So previously, the way that jump worked was your jump distance tripled for 1 minute. So what does that mean, that your jump distance triples? Well, to figure out what your jump distance is, it is that you can cover a number of feet equal to your strength score as long as you move 10 feet. Okay, now the thing is that you can only ever jump as far as you have movement speed. So that meant that if you moved 10 feet in a straight line, and let's just say that you have a 20 to strength, okay, you could move, or let's say you have 15, let's go more average, okay, you have 15 feet. That means you could move 10 feet and you could jump 15 feet. That's pretty simple, it's pretty basic. But what if you move 20 feet and then jump? Well, this says that your strength score determines how much movement you have. But in reality, it's that you cannot jump farther than your movement allows you. So even though you moved 20 feet and you only have 30 feet of movement, you can't jump 15 feet. You can only jump 10 feet at that point. So the way that jump changed it was that you got to triple your jump distance. So that means you could jump 45 feet, but you still could only ever jump 30 feet because of your movement speed. So jump sucked, and very few people ever took it. But now it's a bonus action. And when you touch a creature and cast this spell on them once, why is jump a spell? That was the thing. It was supposed to be tied to like the boots of springing and striding. But the thing is that it was meant for like if you were standing in a ravine and you were trying to jump farther, or if you were trying to do like a high jump, okay? Because when you do a high jump, the number of feet, like it says here, the number of feet you cover equals 3 plus your strength modifier. So if you had a +2 to your strength modifier, this would be 5. That's your jump height. But you could technically move and triple that with jump, but long jump sucked, and it kind of meant that this was only ever used for high jumps. But now, once on each of its turns for that minute, when you cast jump on a creature, that creature can jump up to 30 feet by spending 10 feet of movement. So now it is no longer tied to strength. It is, all they have to do is move 10 feet and they can jump 30 feet. Fucking phenomenal. All right. That is such a good change. I am going to add that to my D&D Beyond account so that all of my players can use that new version. That is a better version of jump than there has ever been, and I absolutely love that. So I think that is such a better version of jump than has ever been seen, and I'm so glad that that's the change they did. It's so simple, it's such an obvious change, but it's great. And then this is also one that could be twinned by a sorcerer, because this is one where you get to target additional creatures, so you can give multiple creatures this ability to jump. So I'm super happy that this was put in there. I really love this version of jump. And God, I can't wait to see it actually used in some of my games because it's so good. And then lastly, Sorceress Burst now uses D8 rather than a D6. I think that's good just because it's, you know, more damage, more opportunities. Yeah. So I think that's where I'm probably going to end it. Who do you think might use it? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I mean, it's available to druids, rangers, sorcerers, and wizards. So there's a couple people that could use it. But in reality, I think it's just good in general that that's like the use of it now. So whoever wants to use it obviously should use it. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to touch on the spells. I'm not really worried about weapon updates. I'm so kind of meh on the masteries. They can be a little bit confusing, but we'll touch on them another day, probably Monday night. I plan on talking about the warlock and the wizard, as well as going into detail with some of the other stuff. So that's where we're gonna leave it for this evening. To those of you that have decided to hang out and chat tonight, thank you so much for that. Stacy Thorne, Gift of Gabby, 3 Geese in a Trench Coat. We also had that one guy that was trying to push bots. Sabachu was here, Glenn was here, Death, Dice, and Dungeons was also here earlier. So thank you everybody who hung out. Well, thank you, Thorne. I appreciate that. If you are wanting to hear the rest of this UA, if you want to hear any more and hang out with us and chat with us, join me on Monday nights when I do my D&D&Chill streams. That's actually when they are scheduled. Today was just a little additional thing. Also, if you want to keep up with the community and chat with us, you can click that, you can go to that link above me, or you can click the about button below the stream, and there's a big old Discord button. You can join over in the Discord. We got all kinds of stuff. We got people talking about D&D and video games. I also was talking about it earlier. I have a slew of D&D related content over there, some homebrew stuff, also some D&D adventures and books, maps and tokens and whatnot. So if you're interested in that, head over to the Discord, say hi, and chat with us, talk about D&D. That's what we love. But I'm not going to be gone for too long. Like I said, I'm going to be back live in a little bit for the 3rd episode of Dad Bods and Dragons, or Dungeons and our chaotic Baldur's Gate 3 playthrough. If you missed the first 2 episodes, you can check them out here on VOD, and you can catch up to where we are. We killed all the druids. Yeah, that sucked. So we got all the tieflings in the grove, and we'll gotta see what's gonna happen next. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Y'all have a good night if you don't want to come over there, but if you do, hey, be glad to see you around. All right, we'll see you then. Bye.